All right, Mr. Fourbanger, how are you, man?
Yo, what's up, man? I'm doing pretty fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm really excited for this actually. I've had like actually like so many um like thoughts on aiming and questions
Mm,
that I've been like saving for like an interview like this, like someone who's like really
yeah.
knowledgeable on it. So far, the only person I've really been able to talk to is my buddy Mason, who he was actually a client of yours, I believe.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if you know KTA Pete or Pete. I think that was his thing. He was an Apex player.
It's- Oh, is he called Rank 00 on Discord or something like that?
I think it's like yeah, rank memester or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's him.
Well, I
That's my
hope you had
buddy.
good things to say.
Oh yeah, he does. Lots of good things to say.
Okay, awesome.
So
Awesome.
yeah, I've had a bunch of stuff that I've been like thinking about, like just like applying Kovacs to Counter Strike, like over my career and
Yeah,
stuff. But it's like pretty hard to talk to anyone about this because so like I mean I was my main interest is CS, right? And a lot of the
yeah,
people that play CS, the aim advice you hear from them is just like, bro, just DM, you know? And it's like you at some point you want more than that, and it's like it's hard to talk about
yeah,
like like level in-depth stuff with like just like average CS player. So it's like it's really cool to have like a true like aimer to ask these questions about and chat with. So I just want to throw that out
yeah.
there. But yeah.
That's awesome. I'm also super excited. I knew like I wanted to set up some form of interview, and I really wanted it to be you too because we both come from CS backgrounds and we're both like really into this whole aiming thing. You might be more like a little bit more on the game sense side,
Uh
and I think it'll be really helpful for people that sort of don't really know about aim trainers or sort of on the fence about it, or maybe use it also but want to know more, right?
yeah, for sure. For sure. Hold on, I think hold on, can you talk one more can you talk real quick?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hello. Can you hear me? I can adjust my mic as well. It's in a bad position.
No, you should be good. I thought it was coming through my mic as well. I see like the volume thing jumping up and down. I think it just might be the background noise in my room. We should be good. We should be good. No, but yeah, 100%.
Awesome.
Yeah, like I think this would be a really cool conversation, like combining the two expertise of knowledge, because that's like something I've been doing a lot is like trying to apply, because I feel like I'm decently knowledgeable in like aim trainers and stuff and like aiming, because I
Hmm.
took it pretty seriously for a while, because you get all like the shit aim IGL accusations when you're an IGL, you know. So
Yeah.
I took that shit to heart and I like went hard. I went hard on aim training, really hard, which is actually kind of segues into the first question. There was a good period of time where I was aim training so I heard about Andrew Huberman, right? And he was talking about like optimal learning periods and like how the brain is like it functions in like I think it's like ultradian cycles. So like every 90 minutes is usually like how long a period of focus lasts. And you're saying that's like
Mhm.
optimal for learning. So for a while, I was doing like 90-minute aim training sessions.
Yeah.
And dude, there was a point where I was doing like three of those a day. So it was like
Ah,
almost
damn.
like 4 hours of aim training, and it
That's
was
insane.
helpful for a bit, but then I noticed I plateaued really hard,
Mm.
and like nothing was improving. And like recently, with like my whole burnout and stuff, like I've been taking a break from Counter Strike, but the aiming has not. Like I still love that shit. Like I love aim training so much, but I've been doing
Yeah.
like a minimalist type of approach, and I've only been doing about like 15 minutes a day, and I've noticed like I PR, like I still PR, and I was just curious about your thoughts on like the volume of training, um, frequency of training, and like duration, and like what do you do like with your clients, or like maybe like the differences between clients. Maybe like there's a difference in volume and frequency depending on like the client's experience. Like if they're a more experienced player, do they need more? Do they need less? Like I don't know. I guess I'm just like
Yeah.
a your thoughts on that like topic in general as an aim
Well,
coach.
I'll tell you, I've through this work, I've been able to talk to a lot of people and get a lot of, let's call it different opinions or different perspectives. And I could tell you one thing is that nothing is true just because someone says it. Everything is true if it applies to you.
Mm,
And I think something like Andrew Huberman, he's a really smart guy and he's really awesome. But it's tough for me to look at anything and be like, yes, 90 minutes is the way to go. just because it sounds good, maybe it's backed by science or something. I like to test everyone. I'll give this person a 15-minute playlist and say, hey, play this for a week. And I'll give this person another week, 1 hour, 2 hour playlist and say, play this. And we will then see what he responds best to. That's really important. Instead of me putting on my knowledge on him, we're
Yeah.
essentially now exploring what works best for him. And that's where you sort of have to question yourself, hey, do I struggle with fatigue? Have I played 15 minutes? Have I played 1 hour? Because some people, I just give the longest playlists ever, and they're like, hey, yeah, I played this 3 times in a row. And it's like freaking 5 hours or something. Like, how the fuck?
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, I'm improving in game and everything is going good. And other people tell me the complete opposite. When you gave me this 20-minute, 30-minute playlist, I feel a lot more free and I can play better in game and I don't fatigue. So there's no right or wrong. It's actually just about testing. This works best for me or this works best for me, and sort of judging on past experiences.
I see. Yeah, 100%. So then what so when you're testing the players, are you looking for so you're looking for what works best for them in terms of like are they getting better scores or just like is it more like personal feedback where like how they're expressing their experiences with like
That
the playlists?
that's a really really good question, and that's something as a coach, which is the hardest part. Is if the client feels something, but I have my knowledge upon it, which is more important? And what I think is the client will always have the highest, most like raw feedback that he can give me. Because if I just throw my knowledge on him, those might not line up essentially. So what I tend to do is I'll give the person different things, let him test it out, and the main thing I tell him, I'm like, forget about your Kovacs scores, forget about everything. How do you feel in game? That's your
Mm,
real benchmark, your gameplay. Do you feel better doing 50 minutes? Do it. There's nothing right or wrong. There's no rule set to this. It's the rules that you should follow are the rules that work for you essentially. And I think people get way too caught up in, oh, this is recommended. Oh, this guy said this. Oh, this guy did this. It's like nothing matters. What matters is, does this work for you and is it relevant at this time? So like if a complete beginner is told, hey, focus on accuracy, but he's missing larger targets, he needs to go back to the larger targets because he's a beginner. But that same advice of hitting larger targets is not going to be relevant to him later down the line. So everything is about timings and understanding that, hey, maybe this tip or this piece of advice is relevant to this person at this specific time with this issue. And it's not like a general, because people generalize things way too much.
yeah.
It's sort of like going to the gym, and your question to like a coach or something is like, how do I get bigger? And that question is so incredibly large
Yeah.
that you can't really answer it. What you need to do is, okay, how do I get a better chest? Okay, how do I get better legs? Okay, if I do this exercise, then that works this part of my leg, and maybe this part is underdeveloped. And actually, when I hit this, I feel better here and stuff and stuff. So what you need to do is gain knowledge, because when you gain knowledge, more important than technique, I would argue, when you gain that knowledge, you can sort of start to dictate what feels right and judge which path you should take.
Holy. Okay. Yeah. No, that's a great answer. There's so many questions popping up while you're talking there, and
Oh
I'm
shit,
like,
maybe I'm ranting too
no,
much.
no, no, no. It's I love it. I love it. This is perfect. I'm just trying to think of like where's best to go from here. So okay, I wonder if I should like write stuff down as you talk because I brought my own questions, but I also really wanted this to
Mm.
be more just like free flow. So I just want to see where it
Yeah, yeah,
goes. But we have like a good like structure just in case like I run out of things to ask. But
yeah,
okay,
of
so there was a
course.
lot of things that you said. So okay, so one of them was like what works best for you, and it kind of like
Yeah.
so I've gotten like really into like martial arts recently, specifically like
Mm.
boxing, and like what you're talking
Banger.
about uh like makes so much sense, and I've kind of like reflected back on like my IGLing too, and even like aiming and like my training styles and stuff. of like how important it is to like what you're saying to find things that suit you and that there isn't like a one right thing. So like you'll see like in boxing, there's like all these different styles of boxers, right? Like you got like Soviet style
Mm,
boxer, like you got like your Mike Tyson like peekaboo style. Like there's a bunch of different styles, and they're all throwing like similar punches, but they're just slightly different, and
yeah.
they have different pros and cons to all of them. And it's interesting that you say like some things might be relevant in depending on where you are in your expertise, like your career of aim training. Um, and like I wonder. So okay, so oh man, I can take this so many areas. All right, so then what would you say is like a later? We'll go here. We'll go here. Would you say is like a later thing that a lot of people try and start early in terms of
Ooh,
like training, like that? It's like you should just not be worrying about that right now. Like so, like an example of like with boxing, it's like first thing you should probably learn is like your jab or how to keep your guard up, and not trying to learn like
yeah.
a fucking like I don't know how to like throw this crazy combo with like an overhand at the end, or like something that's like too much. So would you say something that people try to work on too soon? And then also when you say that there is not a right way and everything goes for you, I agree with that. But there's also like like what would you say are certain things that you will just never agree with your client? So like your client might say
Mm.
one thing, but you're like you'll no matter how much they think that suits them, what's something that you would never agree with? Like it's so like for boxing, it's like I don't think any coach would ever be like, yeah, block with your face. Like like something like that. Like is there anything like hard and fast no's in terms of like aim
Yeah.
styles or for aimers? And then
I
also
mean,
what are things that people are training too soon?
yeah, that's an excellent question. So I'm gonna answer the first part of your question. What things are people practice too soon? And I'm gonna formulate it like this: if you're new to aim trainers, you don't get better just by being in the aim trainer. You get better by realizing that the habits you form in Kovaaks will also form in game. So Kovacs, or a name trainer, is a habit builder just as much as it is a raw skill builder. So if you're, for example, a beginner and you're just overly pushing speed, someone told you like, hey, Samir or Sam, I'm not sure, is your name Sam or Samir?
I get called Samir a lot, but it's like supposed to be like it's a play on words. It's supposed to be like samurai or Samar. So my last
Oh,
name's
okay.
it starts with R. It's like Sam R. You can call me Sam though.
Okay.
Any works.
Okay. Sam, you should push speed. If I give you that advice and then you'll constantly overflick, that same habit will also be formed in game.
Mm,
So when I tell people this advice, like push speed or that you shouldn't push speed, people will move overly slow, and that's not like what we want either. It's
yeah.
really about minimalizing habitual mistakes. So let's say you're overflicking and you're like doing 4 out of 10 overflicks. That's okay as long as you're pushing speed. But if you're doing like 8 out of 10 overflicks, that will also happen in game, and we don't want 8 out of 10 of our flicks to be missing, right? Or be misses.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that if a person is lacking in speed, then he needs to push speed, and if a person is lacking in accuracy, then he needs to focus on that. And usually it's one of the two. A person has good speed but doesn't have good accuracy, he needs to focus on accuracy. A person is overly careful and he just isn't like pushing speed whatsoever, he needs to push speed. So it's more about like, oh, this person struggles with this issue, he needs to do this.
Mm,
It's sort of like because one thing I see a lot is people focusing so much on scores, and like to a certain extent, PRs are completely irrelevant if you just break them once or twice. If you up your level to that complete level, then you're golden. But if you're just breaking it here and there, then you're not.
mm.
I'm sort of going on rambling, but to answer your question, find out what you're lacking, and then that's how you should attack it.
So it should be like a constant self monitoring and like reassessing as you're training. It's you like
Yes,
so pretty much the answer is just avoid stagnation in like how you train.
100%, 100, and
Yeah.
sort of what we came across on the first one is like don't blindly follow advice. Gain all perspectives, listen
Yeah.
to everyone, and find out which one applies to you.
Makes sense. Makes
And
perfect sense.
and in terms of boxing, because I was a boxer as well when I
Oh,
was
really?
younger. Yeah, I'm really fascinated by something John Kavanagh once said, and he's Conor McGregor's coach. If you didn't know,
Okay.
he said in an interview he's not interested in what the rules are. He's not interested how it looks. He's interested in what works.
Mm.
And I feel like that's super relevant to aim training because I'll go back to the perspective of speed. If you're constantly pushing speed and you may be even breaking your PR, but you're overflicking constantly, you're going to overflick in game as well. And you may break your PR and see like, hey, shit, holy shit, I progressed. But you're also progressing your bad habits. So is that then worth it? Is something you really have to ask yourself. And that sort of shifts a lot of people's mentality to be like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't focus on PRs, but what are the patterns I'm forming and doing in my trainer?
Mm. Yeah. So then, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So do you have ever have like do you ever program, well, okay, so if you're not worried about PRs, how do you view scores? Like, how should one view
Oh,
scores when in an aim trainer?
that's a really good question. Um, I touched on it slightly. If you're breaking, because a lot of people will be like, hey, I'm 90th percentile. And they'll in their minds, they'll think they're done. They think, yeah, I'm better than 90% of the people.
Yeah.
But people who are a little bit more used to aim trainers know that a 90th percentile run will look so unclean. If it's tracking, it's shaky. If it's static, it's overflicky, and it's actually a horrible metric to look at. But in terms of raw score, let's say you're at like score 10, whatever, and next day you're at score 12, and then the next run you're back to score 10 or 8. That won't really matter because you just broke it once. If you, however, break your score and now you're at 12, and then you're 13, then you're 11, then you're 14, then you're 13, and that's your new level, 12 is your new baseline, that's a
Mm.
good way to be like, I actually progressed in this. And a super important thing to look at when looking at score specifically is don't be fooled by seeing that you're in the 90th percentile, 95th percentile, or whatever, if you cannot go back to that level immediately. Like if you have an old score you cannot beat, that should be a reason for you to go and beat it again, and a realization that this is a flaw I'm doing. Because just as well as that bodybuilder who's like, oh, my calves are underdeveloped, he can't stop training calves just because they grow big ones. You know what I mean? He needs to
Yeah.
keep hitting those calves and keep them up. So that's super important. The only place I would say score kind of is completely irrelevant, because it is relevant to some degree, but where it's completely irrelevant is like pokeball, because I would like most people to focus purely on, if you're a beginner, to focus purely on technique. But the rest, it can be a decent metric as long as you realize it's not everything. A score should come as a reason for you having a good aim, not as a proof of you having good aim.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I know for the longest time I was obsessed with like the whole voltaic benchmarks, and
Yeah.
well, I mean, I told you like how you get like the shit player accusations if you're like an IGL. And so I remember
Yeah.
like you're talking about like it shouldn't be like a proof of good aim. I remember I grinded the fuck out of those, and I remember I kept telling
Mm.
myself like once I hit masters complete, like I'll be good. No one can
You'll be
talk shit
golden.
anymore. Yeah, yeah. And then I go and hit
Yeah.
masters complete, and then I'm just like, oh man, I still suck. Like I'm still like fucking
Yeah.
up kills in game and stuff. It's like it doesn't matter. Like if I hit a good score, it's like you said, like what works, you know? And like obviously my aim was
Yeah.
improving, but it's like, was it really improving for CS? You know?
Mm. Yeah.
Because it's like I could be like gaming the scenarios and like doing techniques in like a scenario that like may help me get a higher score, but is it really good for like actual in-game aim? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. 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 No, for sure. I mean, one thing that people tell me, and this is any type of benchmark, is like, hey, as soon as I jumped off the benches, I started seeing in-game results. I hear that
Really?
a lot. I hear that
Really?
a lot. Yeah, and I think it has less to do with the benches and more to do with the mentality, because people similar to you believe a good score in a benchmark means I have good aim, but good aim means you have a good benchmark, not the opposite. If
Mm.
you have good aim, you will automatically beat whatever score you want to beat. You don't get good aim by grinding your score, cheesing it, which can be like, hey, good spawn patterns. It could be like you changing sensitivity, FOV, and all this shit that you
Yeah.
probably wouldn't do mid fight. So
Yeah,
I tell
changing
these
FOV
people,
mid fight would be crazy.
yeah, because people will change things for clicking and then for tracking, for example. But if both of those are combined, let's say you're playing like Apex, where both clicking and flicking are combined, you won't really change it mid fight. So why would you do it when you're isolating one specific skill?
Yeah.
You want everything to flow together in a natural state. And the way you should benchmark is very, very, very simple. How do you aim in game? Like don't count on how I aim in these isolated, specific scenarios that are meant for you to get better. And usually benchmarks are meant to be cheesed. That's super important. It's meant to
Mm.
be cheesed. And the way I would like, let's say you're playing a reflex scenario, or you're playing a speed target switching scenario, or anything that's slightly harder. That's a good benchmark, because if you can't hit challenging stuff, that makes you rethink a little bit, like, am I really, if I can't hit this harder stuff, how am I expected to hit this in game? So maybe I need to go back and do some more fundamentals, or work on some, whatever your specific issue is.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, I wonder how much like if you end up with that whole like benchmark, like over obsessing about benchmark mentality, how much like you kind of like just screw yourself even with like trying to switch to like what you're saying, like how your aim is in game. Cuz I remember when I was like deep in the whole like benchmark grind mode,
You know?
my aim in game got worse because I was too focused on it and like I wasn't able to like to let
Yeah.
loose. And
Yeah.
that was actually like one of the things I had as a question later on. Maybe we could pivot to
Yeah.
this here. Let me highlight it so I don't ask it later.
Of course.
Was I've always just like kind of called it to myself like this idea of like quote unquote like duct tape aim, where it's like there's a certain type of aim that you have in game that is just like just kill the guy, like just kill him, you know,
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
like in
Yeah. Yeah.
Kovaaks where it's like you're doing, you know, your one wall five targets and then you accidentally overflick and then you reset and then you do it again, you reset, you reset, you
This is,
reset, and you constantly like resetting trying to get like the perfect form, which is like that's cool if you're trying to work on like maybe your initial flick or something or some aspect of your aim. But like once you actually get
yeah.
in game, like you also need to know how to stay on target by spam clicking. Like if you're on pistol round,
Yeah.
like you got to know how to spam click. You're not gonna sit here and line up every shot, you know.
Mm.
So I was just curious on like what's have you
Um,
like have you do you have like a term for this or a way to program this into your clients' aim training routines to like you know what I'm saying?
yes. I know exactly what you're saying, and this is probably like the most important question you could ask.
Oh really? Okay.
And yeah, this is really great, because this is why I frequently mention to people to be careful with what techniques you follow, because if you frequently follow a technique that deviates from your natural aim style, when you're under pressure, that all goes to shit.
Mm.
So you actually need to, exactly as you said, for example, you may spam with the USP and you need to figure out why that is and blah, blah, blah. But essentially, you should practice with your natural aim style and not try to constantly change things, or believe that, hey, if I just subconsciously do this, which is true to some degree, but don't believe they can change, like, I want to aim like the way Nico does or Scream does or something like this.
Yeah.
We're all, for whatever reason, we have some patterns in us, and I would love to touch on that in the future. But so we have some patterns in us that makes us aim the way we aim.
Mm.
And in Kovacs, a huge thing that I've been trying to tell people, a huge thing, like, please is that these punishment signals that you get in game do not exist in Kovaaks. If you miss a shot in Kovaaks, it literally means nothing. But if you miss a shot in game, it means you're dead.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will have a hard initial flick and then a slow micro, and they'll be like, yeah, I'll just adjust in game. That's their logic, because I can adjust in Kovaaks, I can adjust in game. But because your micro is so slow, that guy's already moved on. He's way past you. He's flying, right? Because in-game requires a lot of speed. So if you have slow micros and you have practically no skill, which a lot of people actually, it's very relevant to people. They overestimate their aim, but that's another thing. If you have that slow micro and you have no skill, you can't really expect to have the same effort, the same level of aim in game as well. And it's really relevant to play like reflex, pressure, push speed a lot, if speed is what you're missing, which we talked about a lot. And a lot of it comes purely from not realizing how bad you are as an aimer. Because a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
Because they'll get into Kovacs and they'll have a false sense of, what you call it, false sense of progression. Because if you constantly beat yourself, it doesn't really matter if the competition is better than you. So you're against yourself 100%, but you're also against the standard of your competition. So if your competition has a 1 millisecond faster micro than you, you're dead. So does it then matter that you got a Kovacs score, or does it matter that, hey, I need to fix my micros or fix this or whatever it is? So overestimating aim is the number one reason for failure. Like, I would rather you see yourself as a horrible aimer than a new one, because that will make you always want to raise your standard and always look to increase your standard, always look to go out of your comfort zone. Don't stagnate your aim.
That's really interesting. Yeah, 100. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, because that dude, that's like, I when I hit the Masters complete, I was like, oh, I'm a good aimer now, and
Yeah.
I just like I plateaued so hard, and
Yeah.
ironically, like now when I'm doing because I still run your was it the STS benchmarks, I think it's called, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
run
exactly.
those, and that's what I used to grind the fuck out of. I remember I grinded that till like I got to the fifth one, and then I remember I was doing that for like 4 hours a day, and I
Oh,
was,
damn.
dude, it was
You're a
crazy.
machine.
Yeah. And then I plateaued really hard, and then I got burned out,
Yeah.
and then I started doing like whatever. I'm just gonna do it for like 15 minutes. I'm just gonna like that's what I do now. I hop on your STS benchmark, the fifth one. I put on random, and then I just do it, and I give myself one shot per scenario, and I've been PRing like crazy,
Awesome.
and it's like I
Awesome.
think and the other thing too is that my benchmark page that I had for your thing, I lost it. It must have got like deleted, and
Oh, no.
well, it's like it was okay good because like now I'm not obsessing about score. I'm like, whatever, I'll just play it for fun, and now I'm like actually
Yeah.
PRing more, um, and it's I don't know, it's like kind of like what you're saying, like your scores don't really matter. It's like when I run your benchmarks, just like, hey, I'm just gonna do it for fun and just see how good I am. Like I
Yeah.
do way better than like trying to prove my aim. Um, and there was something. Where else was I gonna try to take this? I was gonna mention something else.
I,
Oh yeah,
I,
if you had a
I
comment.
I just want to throw this in there. Like, score matters if you're progressing your natural habits and the way you aim. And it doesn't matter if you're also progressing your bad habits alongside the score.
It's like zeros out almost.
Yes, because sort of like the first example we took, if you're pushing speed, you're getting a new PR because of that, but you're overflicking all the time, you'll also overflick in game. So you're making a score, and the price you pay is overflicking all the time, and that's the price. That's the thing you're going to take with you into game, not your 90th percentile. That you're the guy who's going to shoot you in the head doesn't give a shit about your 90th percentile. you have to look at, oh shit, I'm overflicking all the time. I
Yeah,
gotta fix that shit. And how do I fix that shit? And what's relevant to me and what's not relevant to you? And you need to ask yourself as many questions as possible. And that's life advice, not just aim training advice.
100%, 100%. Okay, so then, I wonder if I should take it to this topic yet or not. Um,
Hey, it's up to you, brother.
okay, maybe we can. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about what you were just talking about, like scores and stuff, or?
Well, I remember you asked me something at the beginning. I don't think I fully answered it. Would you say like something I would never
Oh
tell
yeah,
people
that's right.
to?
Yeah, I forgot I told you. Yeah, I forgot I asked you that.
Yeah, I also forgot. And if I ramble and I forget something, don't don't just tell me.
Oh yeah, I got you. I
So
mean, you're good. Keep rambling. It's good stuff.
it's like I dream, I get to yap, man. No, but so I would say if there's one thing I would tell people not to do is to not overly focus on sensitivity, grip, mouse,
Oh
or
yeah,
any of that style. It's
yeah,
not to do that that doesn't matter. That matters. It's just that you should not overly fixate on it and believe it to be a quick fix or use it as an excuse for when you did bad. You should always blame your skill. If you miss that shot, it's because you suck. It's not your artisan Heian that costs $80, which is the reason. Like the reason was your skill. Period.
yeah,
So try to. You could play around with grips. You could play around with mice. You could play around with all these things and test. You should always test everything, but don't use it. Don't default back to, hey, that's why I missed.
yeah. 100%. Yeah, dude, I had teammates like that where it's like, dude, every round you spectate and they have a new crosshair. It's like, bro, or you hear them like they're like fuck, and then you hear like the console open up and they're like typing. It's like, dude, there he goes
Uh,
again, changes crosshair. It's like, that's not the problem,
well,
man.
I posted a meme on my Discord, which is a guy who gets like an ace, and he's literally on a horse. Like, he gets some insane spray transfer, and he's literally live streaming from a horse. And
Oh wait,
it's
are you
like I thought
serious?
to myself, "Yeah, I'm
Wait, it
serious.
was
It's
like
on my
real?
Discord." I
Like,
don't know if it's real,
oh,
but I hope it's fucking real.
what the
But
fuck?
it made me look like, hey, if this guy can get a fucking ace on a horse, I mean, you can get a kill, Brand.
Yeah, what the fuck? I don't. Was he a? It was a CS player.
I'm not sure if it's like some. It was in CS, yes, but I'm not sure if he's like a professional or anything.
I wonder if. Okay, I wonder who that is. That's crazy though. What the fuck?
It's it's fucking hilarious. I don't know if it's real or not, but it looked real.
That's wild. Yeah, I definitely don't want to talk about. That's something I like. I never want to talk about is like grips or sense, because that I feel like that conversation is just so overplayed, and it's like
Yeah,
it's like the most talked about thing that should be like the least talked about thing when it comes to like aiming,
yeah,
and it like
yeah,
I hate hearing it. Like it makes me like it. Oh man, I get the
yeah.
ick.
Because I'll tell you something about sensitivity though. Some people, the majority of people, I would, through my experience of coaching, I would say 80% of people will change their sensitivity, feel a gradual improvement or a temporary improvement rather, and feel like, oh shit, I found my new sense, man. I found my new thing. This is it. This is perfect. I finally have good aim. And boom, a day later, when they wake up from their sleep, they're shit again.
Yeah,
And that's essentially what we call a placebo. But if you have a person that changes sense and he slowly but gradually learns and actually improves with this sense, that means that his brain is more capable of adapting and learning to a new sense or to a new whatever, and he may not will actually benefit from changing sensitivity because he learns quicker essentially.
yeah, yeah. That makes sense. Definitely
Yeah.
like, depends on the game and like what the game demands too. You know.
For sure. I think it really depends on the person, but again, this is like it's probably like the 50th thing I would ever ask someone. The only reason I'm
Yeah,
interested in sense or grip or whatever is because my clients are very interested in it because
I see.
it seems to be like a thing where people are like, oh, if I just do this, then I'll be good. And they completely neglect the fact that you can't even hit a bot standing completely still when there's no pressure, there's no nothing, nobody's shooting, nobody's moving, and you're over flicking on that guy. And then you expect to hit a smaller target in game that's also moving and has the ability to shoot you back.
Yeah.
So people always want the quick fix, which is understandable.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like that's what I like realized recently is just like there is no set route in terms of like aim
Yeah.
progression. There's no quick fix, and like
Yeah.
and I guess this is in terms of like even like CS or like anything in life like progression. It's like the more I just realize it's just like it's just duration that like really matters. Like just stick with it. Like the longer you just keep doing
100%.
it, like you'll figure that shit out over time. And like trying to
Yeah.
force something too soon, it just doesn't work. Like it just doesn't. I don't know. That's just something I've like realized recently. Like especially with like the aiming. Like I tried to like force progress with the 4 hours a day, and it's just like I just needed to chill and just like and my whole mentality
Yeah.
was wrong. Like approaching it, you know. And it's like I would have never discovered that if I like would have fully quit though. You know, it's like as long as you can just keep doing it, like you're gonna realize the
Yeah.
solutions eventually. That's all that really
Exactly.
matters.
Exactly. As long as you're, this is why I always tell people who aim train to get your feelings out of it and start being more analytical, is because a lot of people, they'll say, hey, I don't see results today. I don't feel good today. Well, think about what you're doing. How will that feel in the next month, in the next year? What is
Yeah.
the habit you're building? How's that going to take you long term? And stop thinking so much about like how you're feeling now, what's happening, right this second. And it's exactly like you said, that if you give it enough time and if you're just analytical of yourself, you'll always find the truth.
100%. Okay, so I guess now I could deviate to this topic. Unless you had more you wanted to touch on there or no.
I'm good with the touching, man.
All right, cool. Um so the thing so you mentioned earlier you said that there's no punishment in Kovacs, but there's punishment in game.
Yeah.
I actually had the opposite realization because I was so obsessed with
Mm.
Kovacs is that well in terms of punishment in terms of like spamming. So like I
Hmm.
guess this kind of gets like into aim styles. So like so I end up like, you know, overstressing about Kovacs and benchmarks. And like let's say like I
Yeah.
don't know, like certain benchmarks you get punished for accuracy. So I'd be like super I have to be on
Accurate.
target before I click,
Mm.
you know? And then it would fuck up my skill with certain guns that I naturally played with differently in Counter Strike because there's like a style that's
Yeah.
like more effective for certain guns. So like an example I could think
Yeah.
of is like you know like the MBM method with like aiming
Yeah.
where it's like you
Hmm.
insta flick and shoot on the flick and then you adjust and shoot again. Uh,
Yeah.
like that is so effective for pistols in Counter Strike. It's so
Mm.
effective for AKs. And when I got super like benchmark focused, I stopped doing that with those guns, and I'd have an AK peek, and then try and like make sure I'm on his head before I start spraying. It's like, dude, I have 30 bullets. Just flick
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
shoot, you know, like and so I was curious like what's your thoughts on like aim styles? And then also something I noticed is that, like I remember like you see these videos on YouTube where it's like how to find what aim style suits you. And in my opinion, I feel like complete mastery is knowing which style works best for which situations. And so for a while, I
Mm.
was like focusing on that for a bit. So it's like, let's say I'm using a deagle, right? And I have no cover, and I like you're only gonna get one shot, so you should like that's like the time when you should like make sure you're on the head, you know, before you click. But it's like
Yeah.
if you have a deagle, and you know some guys running up long, and you're behind double on dust two, you could pop your head in and out. It's like peek, insta flick, and get back in cover. It's like it's a different style. It'll be more effective for each
I feel
situation.
you.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so I was curious to
I
like,
know.
what's your thoughts on just like aim styles in general, how people should approach that, and then application in game. If you've noticed any like uh, differences between weapons or even across games. So like aim styles for like players in Apex, or like aim styles like I said like different guns in Counter Strike, different situations. I know a couple within Counter Strike, but I'm curious on your thoughts.
Yeah. So it's it's a super long question, and I'll try to break it down a little bit. And I'll answer the first question, which you mentioned about like MBM method, spamming pistols,
Yeah.
playing differently with maybe Deagle, with the op, etc. So what you need to realize, specifically you, Sam, is that if the MBM method works, but for example, the accuracy method doesn't work, it's because the MBM method allows for more speed, natural reflexes.
Okay.
And that's how you aim in game. So essentially, when you're being told, hey, be accurate, you start neglecting speed fully and moving too slowly. And you may personally have a natural inclination towards speed. And when somebody puts a cap on that, that's going to put a cap on your progress as well. So it's really about, that's where aim styles is really, really effective.
Okay.
Because it's sort of like, hey, these are a couple patterns that happens, and this is what you should work on if those patterns happens. So what the difference between, for example, an AK and a USP in terms of raw aim is that USP number one allows for more movement, and it allows for more recoverability. While the 8K, most people spray and pray. Most people lock in, crouch spray, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's why speed and the initial shot is super important with the AK. While with the USP, maybe you have people like rushing up Mirage Slope or something like that, and you're just trying to get a few pop shots off. And usually you're not standing completely still with the USP, just trying to click heads. Usually you're moving because you have like 5 guys rushing with Glocks, right? So you have to, in short, it relies more on movement, and an AK relies more on initial shot speed, etc., etc. So it's essentially, the MBM method essentially questions, how do we recover? And you personally would recover more through speed. So if you look at like a scenario like that's called, let me remember, 3-style frenzy easy or something like that. 3-style frenzy easy. It's 3 huge balls. Okay, that sounds sus. But it's 3 huge targets that are moving very, very slowly. And your goal, because the target is so easy, you start pushing speed a lot more, and that's going to force your recoverability, your micros, your ability to micro quickly more effectively. And that would be very beneficial for someone like you specifically.
Okay.
Of course, I'm just throwing general advice, but
yeah.
If you look at someone like Scream, you can see how does he recover, and he doesn't recover through his aim. He recovers through his movement, essentially, because he's constantly moving. Even this is a huge thing, because a lot of people will move, but they won't move constantly. Scream moves regardless if he hits or misses the shot, where a lot of people will shoot, wait, did I kill, did I not kill, and then decide to move. Scream does it automatically, and that allows him for a higher recoverability. And it's very similar to how people play USP most of the time, which is why some people are really good with the USP and not so good with the M4, AK, stuff like this.
Wait, can you define like recoverability? Are you saying like after you miss your shot, like getting back on target, or?
Yeah, exactly. So, great question. Recoverability can be thought as 2 things. If you miss your initial flick, do you recover, or do you move, or do you recover with your sprays? How is your natural?
Okay.
How's your natural response to making a mistake? That's what your recoverability is essentially.
Okay. And so you're saying people, even with like the accuracy style aiming, where like most of the time there probably won't need to be recoverability, they still have some form of recoverability.
Sorry, I don't fully understand.
So like let's say like so like the accuracy style of aim, the aim style where it's like you make sure you're on head, like you're not just like flicking and clicking. Yeah. Like those people, they probably don't need recoverability as much as someone who, like, let's say MBMs, but that you're saying they would still have some form of recoverability, like something that they do to recover from like a missed shot.
Yeah, so I'll tell you like this. Some people micro and some people don't micro. That's very, very like, if you just slow down your footage, notice where your first bullet is. And if you shoot and then micro, or you micro and then shoot. Those are two very different patterns.
Yeah, yeah.
And a person who is overly focused on accuracy, he will also have to recover because nobody hits, their shots 100% of the time.
Yeah.
But to try to answer your question more specifically, is that person, if he doesn't see success like you did from being overly careful, it's probably because your natural aim style and your game specifically requires way more speed than what you're putting into Kovaaks. Because
Mm.
everything is less about skill and the standard that is required. If you're, let's say, you're Gold Nova, and it's acceptable in Gold Nova to miss 10 shots before your kill. Okay, that's going to be your new standard, and that's going to change your recoverability and how you aim in Kovaaks and blah blah blah. But if you're now facing globals and they'll instantly headshot you, that's going to increase your new standard, and it's going to want you to push to your new comfort zone. So that old aim style, quote unquote, old accuracy, overly calm, slow method of aiming may not be relevant if the person is just faster and better than you.
Mm.
I hope
Yeah,
that somewhat answers your question.
no, it does. Because I remember, yeah, I used to have like the accuracy aim style for a while when I was obsessed with Kovacs. So like the micro then shoot. And then I switched to
Yeah.
like shoot then micro for most guns. And I found so much more success.
For you specifically, I would say, like, even though it feels wrong, I would say number one, look if you're inaccurate during when you're shooting larger targets. Are you inaccurate? That's the first thing I would ask you.
Mm.
And if you are, that's a sign that you need larger targets and including easier dynamic. And if you aren't, that's a sign that you need to essentially find a balance. And we can talk about how to find a balance if you'd like. Or if
Sure,
you have another
yeah.
question.
Sure. Can give me 1 second. My dog's barking at something right now. Here, give me one
Yeah,
second.
take
I'll
your
be right
time.
back.
Sure.
All right, I'm back. My bad. He was just barking at something. All right, so yeah,
No
you said
worries.
find a balance, or can you
Well,
elaborate?
well, of course. If I ask you just that question, if you play like one ball, six targets or something like that, and you're moving really fast, what's your accuracy percentage? Do you miss frequently, or what do you think?
So I know when I'm in 1 wall 6 targets, I'll do a micro then shoot, and so I'm usually more
Mm.
accurate. Versus when I'm in game, I'll be doing the shoot then micro.
Okay, and that's like, just based off what I'm hearing, I would say that you're not pushing your speed enough uh, compared to your skill. If I would say
Can you
that,
yeah,
that's
can you
it's
elaborate?
yeah, of course. So if you micro in Kovacs but don't micro in game, it's usually a result of the micro being slow. Maybe the flicking technique is poor, or you're essentially not used to fast micros. You're microing slow compared to how you micro in game, which requires speed essentially, and that's why
Okay.
you overly rely on clicking mouse one instead of aiming. Your initial shot, your initial response to seeing someone is to click mouse one rather than to aim, and that's usually because some people have a very hard initial flick, some people have a very slow micro, some people overflick a lot, some people are not comfortable with speed. It's difficult for me to say this is exactly it without seeing your aim, but
Yeah.
those are just some generalizations.
So you're saying I would have to switch my style in game or switch my style in Kovacs?
Mm. No, most likely what I'm hearing is that you need to load up one wall six targets and push out of your comfort zone.
Okay, so like miss way more. Well, like but by going
Um,
faster, like
yeah, don't move overly cautious, especially because I know that I've seen your scores at times, and I know that you're not a bad aimer,
yeah.
so I could comfortably be like, hey, push speed a little bit more, maybe incorporate like low TTK play more reflex scenarios, pressure, one wall, one targets. There's lots of cool scenarios in Kovacs.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely. I think you're onto something because I know even on like target switching shit, bro, I be trying to like flick perfectly, and
And
it definitely like slows me down. But it feels so cool when I land it perfectly. But like I definitely need to like probably push myself more, like in terms of like how fast I'm going.
yeah, because in Kovacs is a controlled environment, and in game it's really the opposite.
Yeah.
And in game, exactly like you said, you'll do anything to get that kill. You don't give a shit about confirmations, initial flick, or any of that. You'll just do anything to get the kill. And you need to have, if that's how you aim, you need to have that same mentality when you play Kovacs. And of course, while avoiding, like you shouldn't flick like a maniac just because of that. I think that I gave a tip in one of my videos, and I think it's super relevant. Essentially push as fast as you humanly can push speed, and then slowly start tapering it down 1% slower, 1% slower, 1% slower, until you have that balance where, hey, shit, I'm pushing speed a lot, but I'm not over flicking with every single flick.
That okay, that
And
you just like that just like clicked something like in me. Like when you said I should be applying that same mentality into aim trainers because I do this with a lot of things too. Even with martial arts like when I go to train, a lot of times when I'm training like
Mhm.
my coach and shit, I end up with him I'll train like all right, I got to be perfect with my blocks or like I got to work on something, you know? And then when
Yeah,
I go and train with friends, I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna let loose, and we're throwing punches,
bang.
whatever, we're
Yeah,
banging it out. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And I would do that with CS too, and with the aim trainers. Where like I have a different mentality in the aim trainer than I do in game, and I feel like there's a time and place for that mentality where it's like you're trying to work on something specific. But I
Hmm.
think I do it like all the time. Where like I get into an aim trainer, and I'm working on my flick, and I'm like trying to make it perfect and I don't ever like you said like push myself. And like what you said
Yeah,
too of starting fast and going slow, that makes a lot of sense because I'd always start slow and then try and go fast, and then I stop when I start like I limit my speed to an area where I'm making like very little mistakes. Where in reality I probably need to because you learn from the error reps, like you learn from pushing,
yeah,
and I think that's probably why I
yeah.
plateaued so hard.
I think so too. And I tell you that it's a super, well, it's probably like I would say 30 to 40% of my clients have that issue.
Really?
And the majority of the clients are pushing speed improperly, which is essentially like you can test this best if you play a wide wall scenario. And if your initial flick is essentially, if your initial flick is essentially just throwing your crosshair into a zone around the target and then counting on I'll just micro and your micro is very slow or inaccurate, that's essentially a sign of poor speed handling.
Mm.
And you need to from general advice to underflick rather than to overflick and to focus on the decelerations.
Yeah.
In terms of raw, like what can I do to get better? Hit larger wide wall scenarios because they really work on that stuff.
On like forcing you to push speed.
On like the initial flick and
Oh,
an adjustment thing.
okay. Yeah, you
Uh,
have one of your target switching scenario I think is kind of like that, right? And the STS 5. It's like I just know it's like that one I feel really good on because I think it probably forces me
on
to
the
like let loose a bit more.
TS maybe.
It's a because there's two target switching. There's one that like moves, and then there's one that's like static. And I remember it's pretty big. Like the targets are pretty far between.
Oh, okay.
So like stuff
I'll
like
be
that.
honest with you. I have so many scenarios in my head that it's hurting.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. And while you were talking, someone else just clicked too. I wonder if that's why my quote unquote minimalist training style now, where I just do 15 minutes a day and I give myself one shot per scenario, why
Hmm.
I started to actually improve because I started subconsciously having that mentality with those scenarios. I'm like, well, I can't restart anymore. So if I miss, I have to like I had to treat it
You're
like
fucked.
yeah, like I had to just kill like these targets. I had to picture as players and be like, just fucking kill them.
Yeah.
Like just kill them. Like stop trying to be
Yeah.
perfect, and just kill them.
Exactly.
And
It's
dude, I was, it's crazy. Like I would spend fucking hours, like sucking, and not improving. And then now I hop on. It literally happened yesterday. I hop on my smoothness, one of the smoothest scenarios. I hopped on. I did it once and PR'd, and it was like a big PR.
oh
I was like, what the like I used to do this for hours on one scenario,
yeah.
and never PR for weeks. And now I hop on for a minute in PR, and it's like because I have a totally different mentality. It's like just kill the target, just stay on him and kill him. And I don't know that's I'm gonna try and do that with more stuff. That's a huge difference.
That it's really interesting actually. Because what you mentioned is the reason why I created my FAR 3.0 routines. And my FAR 3.0 routines are essentially 15-minute routines that you can play
Really?
twice or three times or four times. Yeah. And they're really good for someone like you because they cover everything in 15 minutes or 30 minutes if you want to play them twice. But what you said is very, very true. And if you only have one shot, you sort of have to quote unquote live with your mistakes.
Yeah, yeah,
And when you miss a shot, it's that more painful. And that pain is going to force your brain to be like, hey, it's a punishment signal. It's going to be like, hey, shit, I next time I better not fucking miss because I only got one shot.
yeah,
But you have the safety of knowing that, hey, I'll just repeat this. Hey, I'll just click F and restart this scenario and it's completely fine. What I mean when I say that Kovaaks is a safe environment and in game is not.
mm,
And it's if you're into bodybuilding at all, you know that Dorian Yates it really comes from Mike Mentzer, but Dorian Yates had a really interesting strategy. And I talk about this in my FAR video.
yeah, yeah,
He's like, if I can go into my gym session, and be super intense for a short amount of time, that's more beneficial than staying for 1, 2, 3 hours and having mediocre intensity. And the way we can't really have the same we can't really do the same in name trainer, but we can increase our skill by going out of our comfort zone and pushing our speed and stuff like this. And it's really about the mentality of I need to improve because I only have one run, rather to I'll just improve with time.
yeah. Dude, it's funny that you mentioned Dorian Yates because the
The goat.
same bro years ago, same with Mike Mentzer. The same time I switched like a minimalist routine with aim trainers. I
Mm-hmm.
switched to a Mike Mentzer like based
Approach.
uh program to working out where it wasn't
Mm.
exactly like Mike Mentzer where he was like once every like 4 or 5 days, but I dropped my sets from like probably like 20ish per session to like 12, and then it was like 3 days a week instead of like 5 or 6, and I saw the
Yeah.
most gains ever, bro. Like it was like a
Mm.
year and a half. I saw the most gains ever from like having high intensity, short duration, and I ended up doing that with Kovacs. That's when I made that switch, and also did it because I had my own like aim routine for Counter Strike for like working on Counter Strike specific mechanics, so like sprays and stuff. I built like a whole routine, and it was the same thing from that. I built this routine trying to maximize what can I get out of 90 minutes, and then I end up like tweaking that to having like a minimalist version where it's like what's the bare bones that you need for 15 minutes, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I don't know, just a totally like different flip in training philosophy, and it's like
Mm.
it paid off like both in the gym and in the aim trainers. Um, and I was about to say something else. What was I about to say? Oh, that's what I was gonna say. And I wonder how much of that has to do with maybe training age. So like, is that more beneficial for someone who's farther
Yes.
along than someone who like just because someone who's just getting started? It's like this guy was like a guy who's brand new to compute like playing FPSs. I don't think he should be playing 15 minutes
Mm.
like at once every 4 days. Like it's like crazy Mike Mentzer shit. Like he's probably gonna
Yeah.
benefit from like the longer hour, 2 hour routines because he just needs more volume. But maybe someone who's further along in their training age benefits actually more from less but higher focus and intensity.
Yes. You pretty much nailed it. It's
Okay.
exactly as you said, and that's why understanding timings is so important. Some person, let's say you watch a video and you see and this goes back to the ego that many aim trainers have, or people who aim train, um, is that this advice of variety is beneficial to you mainly because you've put so many hours in, so many practice sessions in, and your timing, the thing that you need to do right now is variety, is less work, is all this stuff we've been talking about. And exactly like you said, that's not relevant to someone who's completely new.
Yeah.
So repetition is valuable. It's just which timing do we have it on? And that's why some people will say, hey, I learned from repetition. So this guy says variety is good. He's wrong. It's nothing is wrong. Everything is about what time you put it on and if it suits you. And that's once you have that mentality, you'll understand that you'll drop your ego and you'll be like,
Yeah.
you'll search for the truth rather than, because so many people, especially prominent aim, like people who aim train, I don't know what you call them, aim trainer mains, are
Yeah.
so egotistical in this works for me, so it has to work for the entire world at whatever their timing is. You know what I mean? And they'll just give them something based off what worked for them rather than something that's based off what they actually need at this specific moment.
Yeah. No, that actually like that makes me feel relieved because I know when I figured out like the when I switched to like the whole minimalist approach and like also variety as well.
Mm.
So I guess like variety in like terms of like aim styles, like trying to do different styles for different weapons. Like if I would have tried doing
Mm.
that when I first learned about aim training, I would it would have been too overwhelming. You know, like trying to play with a
Yeah.
deagle differently than how I play with an AK. It's like or play with the AK differently than how I play with a Glock. Like that's too much. Like it's relieving because I remember when I switched this stuff, I was like, fuck, why didn't I do this from the start? But it's probably more like I kind of had to do what I was doing to begin with of like high volume,
Yeah.
and it's just now is just the time to switch. Like it's just now's the time. You know, it's not really like something I should
Mm.
be like because dude, I'd like beat myself. I'm like, bro, I wasted so many hours like just aim training, but it's like maybe those hours of high volume were actually super beneficial back then. It's just they're just not beneficial
Yeah.
now, you know?
Eh, for sure. For
It's just
sure.
it's pretty relieving.
And yeah, for sure. And it goes back to what we were saying before, is that if you just give it time and think long term instead of short term,
Yeah.
you'll realize that, like, just because you play speed target switching and it feels bad right now, it might actually be good in the future when you need to flick fast, for example.
Yeah.
And it goes back to boxing versus aim training is really interesting because boxing is very pattern based.
Yeah.
If you throw a punch and you throw a jab, most likely you throw that jab in a very similar way, and your coach will be like, "Hey, use your foot more," and then you'll start using your foot more, and the way you throw a punch will always be the same from that moment on. And aim training is the complete opposite because no gunfight will ever look the same, even though
Mm.
it's the same angle, the same weapons, the same enemies. He might short peek you, he might wide swing you, you might be flashed, you might spray, he might tap. Like, there's so many possibilities. So that teaches us that aim training isn't really pattern based, but mouse control based. And
Mm.
mouse control is essentially your ability to, in my opinion, it's your ability to handle any situation. Like, no matter if you're moving, he's moving this way, you're moving this way, you have an AK, you have a op, your ability to just get the kill, no matter the situation, is mouse control, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting you like compare the two like that because it makes total sense. I always found personally, I always found boxing to be really helpful for relating to the macro of Counter Strike, of like
Mm,
IGL versus IGL. But it's like so like you
okay.
know in boxing it's like you know you throw a jab, body jab, you know body jab, body jab. He starts blocking it. It's like all right, so then you level switch and throw a lead hook, right? You set him
Yeah.
up with the patterns, but it's like,
Yeah.
and it's like it's similar with Counter Strike. It's like all right, you're throwing banana take, banana take, banana take. All right, you're faking it, doing blank. You know like
Yeah.
It's interesting though how it's like at the aiming level though, it's there is no patterns like that. It's just raw, like you said, mouse control. And
Adaptability, essentially.
yeah, adaptability. And I wonder if that's why I struggled a decent amount with aiming was because I was trying to apply a philosophy that just doesn't work with that. I was trying to apply like the boxing
Mm.
IGL philosophy to aiming, where aiming is more like I mean that literally makes perfect sense. Like that's the thing I struggle with is just kill. Like the mentality of just kill. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I'd always
Yeah.
try and like perfect the patterns of my aim, but it's I don't know. Shit's clicking right now, bro. I feel like it's like a fucking like a therapy session, but like on my aim right now, my aim psyche. Like I don't know, shit's
I
clicking
should be
like I
aim
don't know.
therapists.
Yeah,
Yeah,
aim
that's funny.
therapy, bro. I mean, does that make
That's fucking
sense?
hilarious.
Like,
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I understand what you mean. And actually, I want to ask you something.
yeah,
Um, you're IGLing, so you're thinking a lot about what the enemy will do, what I should do, how should I counter this person, how should I use my players. And there's a lot of things probably in your mind. I've never IGL'd. I was a dumb entry fragger, so I don't know what the hell's going on.
uh,
I just shoot. Tell me to go shoot, I'll shoot. So I'm interested in hearing your perspective of like, hey, how do I is aim subconscious to me? Do I need to micro this person? And how sort of all of it goes together? And it's very, very broad question. I'm sorry for that,
no,
but
you're good.
I'm trying to understand the vibe, the relation between strategy and aim, and why so many IGLs perform worse.
Um, so I mean, you know the usual excuses like it's like oh they're looking at radar or there's other stuff going on in their mind that they can't focus on crosshair, which is 100% true. There's been so many
Mm.
so many fucking times where like I'm like I'm talking or like I check radar to see where my teammates at and then you get peeked and you're pretty much aiming with your peripherals at that point. Like you're not looking straight at your crosshair, so your focus is off. So
Yeah,
your aim's not gonna be as good. So like the usual reasons like that. It's like 100% why IGLs perform worse. Um, but I wonder how much of it is like what I just talked about, where it's like maybe IGLs approach aim maybe with how they approach IGLing, and maybe that's why you see
yeah,
some IGLs like what's a good fragging IGL? Like maybe I'm trying to think. So like I don't know. So you have like the very structured teams.
hmm
You had like let's say like Furia for a while when Art was IGLing. He was the IGL, but he was also the entry. And Furia was very like explosive. This was like years ago. They were very explosive. Like they just fucking get in and get it done. Like just frag out. And I wonder if that's
hmm
why his fragging was good, even though he was an IGL, is because his mentality was different. And who you are is how you play. And maybe that comes out
yeah,
in the same way you aim as well. So it's like maybe if you're a very structured IGL, you're gonna approach your aim in a very structured way. And it's just like maybe aim is just not
mm,
built to be that way. That's a field that doesn't it, that philosophies just don't apply to. It's ineffective. And I wonder if
yeah,
that's. I mean, I can speak personally for myself. That's 100% a factor. I literally just realized during this conversation is why I would aim worse. Is because I was too structured with my as a personality, and I tried applying that
yeah.
to aiming. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to think of like other reasons why. If you had something to comment on too, that's fine.
It's really interesting. I haven't been into the CS pro scene in a long time, but this Fury approach that you mentioned, it may be because he's essentially just saying, "Hey guys, just do this, just rush B or whatever
Yeah,
the strategy is, right?" And that allows him to stop thinking about IGLing and start focusing on fragging because everybody knows just rush B, you just press W basically,
yeah,
and maybe that lets him loose of all the mental stuff that, oh shit, I need to think about this and think about that, and he builds pressure on himself, and that pressure will block his aiming ability.
yeah.
Um,
No, that
so by
definitely.
just saying
Yeah.
rush B, he's like, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's definitely a thing where it's like once a call is made that like is like a call to like that there's no more intricacies. It's like everyone knows what we're doing. Then you
hmm
can stop thinking about IGL. Usually the fragging comes like that's when you're able just to frag like what you're saying.
Well, that means that the IGL essentially has to be double the aimer that the entry fragger has, because he has to focus on many things, and his aim takes a lower priority. That means that his aim needs to be way better.
Yeah.
Would that be accurate, or am I crazy?
Um, I think in an ideal world, yes. Like, if you wanted like the best IGL ever, he would have to have like crazy good aims because his aim would have to be at like the subconscious level, like to perform that well. He'd have to like have really good subconscious aim, because he doesn't, because there's like you ever heard like the whole A, B, and C game concept of like learning.
No,
Okay,
no.
well,
Please tell me about it.
so there's this concept of like it's like a sports psychology. There's this concept of like A, B, and C game, and pretty much like your A game is like when you're playing your best, and
Hmm.
you have the cognitive abilities to integrate new knowledge that isn't down to a subconscious level on top of your subconscious level of gameplay. So it's like when you get to like really really good at a certain point, like there's some things you'll never be bad at again. Like you'll always know it.
Yeah.
It's because you have it down to a subconscious level. Like those are the things that you know so well, you'll never lose them.
Mm.
And so that's your A game is when you can take that plus stuff you're in the process of learning, and then that's when you play your best, right? Your B game is like when you
Okay.
play on average, and then your C game is when your brain is in some type of state where it's compromised to be able to add information that you're in the process of learning. So like let's say we're playing Inferno, right? And I
Hmm.
just like learned these new arch smokes today. But before the game, my girlfriend broke up with me. So like I'm
Mm.
tilted. My cognitive thinking is compromised because I have so much high emotion that I'm not able to
Yeah.
access the information that I don't have to a subconscious level, but I have in some type of short term memory level. So
Hmm.
now I'm forced to play at my C game where because now I can't think and add onto my subconscious. You're forced to revert back to what you have down to a pure subconscious level, and that's when you play the worst. And so, in an
Mm.
ideal world, the IGO would be so good at aiming that his subconscious aim is as good as everyone else's A game. His C game is
Yeah.
as good because his aim is always going to be not always, but it's most of the time it's going to be at C game level because he's not thinking about aiming. Whereas like if you're the hard
Mm.
entry or if you're like the second rifler, you're like you're the trade fragger. You don't have to think about fucking rotates. Like you're not thinking about util
Yeah.
management. You're not thinking about economy. You're literally like I'm peaking arch and I'm trading my entry. That's all you're thinking about. So you get to use your subconscious level of aiming plus all your current cognitive ability and all your like mental RAM on that gunfight. Whereas the IGL
Mm.
in the middle of his gunfight, he was just thinking about fucking how are we gonna fake the site right before, or he was telling his teammate, "Hey, drop me the smoke." Where he's like microing, and then someone peeks him as he's microing. So his aim
Yeah.
is forced to be at its subconscious. It's forced to be at its C level because he doesn't have the RAM
Mm.
to boost it to A level gameplay. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's really, really interesting. I wasn't aware of that terminology. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's from I think it's the guy who wrote the Inner Game of Tennis or the Mental Game of Poker. No, the Mental Game of Poker. They talk about A, B, and C game. It's
Mm.
like a sports psych book, but that's
Okay.
definitely a big aspect why IGLs like aren't as they aren't as good fraggers unless they have the IGL style that's allows them to frag. Where like because I was doing that style for a bit where I was the entry as the IGL and like no calls would really be made until I went in and got a fight and then got the information. So I was able to have like cognitive space to just kill, go in there and
Mm.
die, and then get the information and then you're calling while you're dead. So that's why you'll see certain IGLs are
Okay.
actually way better fraggers than others because they found a style that allows them to have like their cognitive abilities during their fights and then the calling later, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. It's actually super interesting because it goes into aim training in some specific way.
Okay.
And an IGL or a good fragger usually, I'm not a professional or anything, but I would guess in most cases a good fragger doesn't make a good IGL. And I think my theory is because the fragger relies on his abilities, and he's probably always had good abilities, good mechanics. He's he subconsciously just plays his game and doesn't understand why it works. But the IGL understands why specific things works, and the weight of knowledge and information subdues his mechanical skill. And it's sort of like they both work together in some weird way, and they both can't be true at one, like, because to be very analytical is also often almost a curse in a way, and
Yeah.
that can be a very heavy burden for some people. And it's sort of like exactly what you mentioned with your girlfriend broke up with you, and then you have a huge burden on yourself. And the cause of being super analytical may actually be almost a deterring factor to an IGL's aim ability, because it's like this weight on him that you talked about. And it's super interesting because it's sort of like what makes a naturally good aimer good, nobody really knows. And he doesn't even know, and he can't even explain why he can just play grid shot for 2 hours and then he's good to bang, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Fucking great shot.
I literally had a guy, no, I'm not joking. I had a guy I played Valorant with for a very short duration, and I played Valorant for like 10 hours, so forgive me, but worst 10 hours of my life. But anyway, he had really good aim, and I told him, like, what do you do for your aim? I shit you not. He says, I just go grid shot for 2 to 3 hours.
What the fuck?
And he had really good aim.
Yeah.
So, and that made me think, like, what the fuck is all this shit I'm spewing just bullshit? And I should just play grid shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I realized that, like, if it works for him, then my judgment of that is completely irrelevant. Who am I to tell him, no, do this? If he can perform well in doing that, then that's the right approach for him. And that's sort of subconsciously, he's just a good aimer, essentially. Yeah.
Bro, grid shot for 2 hours is crazy.
It's insane.
That's wild. And he was like, what would you, like, how would you like rank him as like an aimer? Like, would you say he's like, I don't know, like, so like, where would you put him in like your benchmarks, like the STS?
If I threw a Kovaaks benchmarks in his face, he probably wouldn't perform very well.
Okay.
That's really interesting. We could talk about that as well. But I wasn't super intro. I was playing Valorant because there was this girl at the time that I liked, and she liked me, and we played Valorant for fun, and we do blah blah blah. And and he was her friend. Okay. Childhood friends or whatever, and that's how I got to know that guy. And I never really looked at his aim or anything specifically. I was just like sort of zone out yapping with her, and I was just see like, holy shit, he just got an ace out of nowhere, you know, that was perfectly clean. But I think the level of Valorant we played was very, very low. Like we would just yap with each other and play Valorant in the background, so I can't really assess like if he's the best aimer ever, but I can remember he was good for sure. He was very clean.
Okay.
Very fast, snappy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I guess we could talk about that. Because there's a viewer question that had something to do along the lines of, so you said he was a good aimer in game, but if you throw a benchmark at him, he's probably gonna do really bad.
Yeah.
Elaborate on that, and then when you're finished, this guy, he asked. We had a bunch of fucking questions. One of them was, he said, where is it? Oh yeah. So should people? His name was Rayan. Should people training for TAC FPS prioritize more even scores in all categories on benchmarks, or like should they focus on one more than the other? So touch on the player, and then touch on like benchmarks and like application for like certain games. Like should an Apex player worry more about tracking? Should a CS player worry more about static or reflex, etc.?
Good question. We'll cover the first thing about the player exactly like you said. The reason, well, it's sort of all interconnected in a way, and I'll try to answer both at the same time. The benchmarks, and the reason why I mentioned benchmarks specifically to that person is because it's essentially a set of fundamental scenarios that will cover most aiming like requirements or whatever. So your basic needs essentially. And the person in Valorant who performs really good in Valorant but bad in aim trainers more than likely has some ability to mix everything into one smooth motion, and he may like his movement is really aligned with his speed or something like that, and that isolation of one particular skill may just be enough to take him to like the level he's currently at. Because in game everything gets worked. In game your tracking, your clicking, your movement, it's all combined. It's not really like you have good clicking and you'll be good at Valorant, right? It's all together. So a person, and I'll answer it like this, a person who plays Apex but only plays tracking misses out. If we think purely analytically, we think about aim like it's a raw pattern, that person would most likely miss his first 1 to 5 shots because he purely knows and purely relies on tracking. And the idea of aim is essentially, how do we get as many shots on target and make it as clean and as beautiful as possible? So if an Apex player completely neglects static, for example, he has a higher chance of missing his initial shots, relying more on recoil and tracking later on. And if his opponent is better than that, he's essentially 5 shots ahead of you just because you don't view static as useful. So everything is sort of combined. And to answer the person's question, if you want to really use benchmarks to see your progress, don't use, like if you do really good in tracking but really bad in static, don't say that you need to play more static. I think that's the wrong way to use benchmarks. I think the proper way to look at benchmarks is, if I do really bad in static and really good at tracking, what's the reason I do bad at clicking? Is it because I'm doing this mistake, that mistake? Always ask yourself why, rather than just seeing, oh, scores better than static, scores worse in tracking, and try to mitigate that as a reason why your aim is bad or worse. It should, again, we talked about, benchmark scores are a consequence of you having good aim, not a result of you immediately getting good aim because you reached a rank, right?
That makes sense.
It's sort of like I try to mix everything together, sort of like became a little mess, but I hope that somewhat answers this question.
No, that does. That definitely does. I think that almost answers this other question. Oh, I actually read this question wrong. So I thought this other guy was asking, is deathmatch really that efficient? But he actually says, is headshot only deathmatch really efficient? I was gonna say, initially when I thought it was the other way, I was gonna say, because deathmatch is like kind of like what you're saying. Deathmatch is you combine everything: movement, tracking, flicking, recovery. So I was like, damn, that kind of answers that question already. Unless you disagree. I don't know if you.
I'll touch on this specifically for. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, unless you like disagree, and then talk about headshot deathmatch and how that's possibly different, or if that's efficient or not.
So I can answer this question because I used to play a shit ton of headshot deathmatch because I was basically fangirling Scream. Like that
really?
was like, I would copy his hairstyle. No, I'm just kidding. That would be next level. Yeah. But yeah, I was fangirling over him, so I tried to like figure out like why does he do it and why am I stuck in silver? Essentially, was my question. And he would play a lot of headshot deathmatch, and I think now when I'm more knowledgeable, I can tell that headshot deathmatch allows for more recoverability, and because you're not slowed down by the tagging, you can rely purely on making your movement and clicking smooth, because you know that your enemy will need more time to click your head, and you also have more time to click his head. So you essentially are a little bit more calmer with your aim, you take your time a little bit, and you rely more on your movement to get the kills. Whereas a normal deathmatch, if you get shot in your leg, there's a chance of the recoil going into the... Sorry, if you get shot in the leg... Did I just say that?
Yeah.
I just had a matrix split. But if you get shot in the... if you get shot in your leg, there's a chance for the recoil to bounce into your head. There's you're slowed down, so now you have to react quicker because you're slower, and that's an easier time to hit you and stuff like this. So you have to rely purely on your reactions in your normal deathmatch. But headshot deathmatch allows you for take a little bit longer time, so it may be more beneficial for people who underutilize their movement, and essentially want to work a little bit more on that calmer tapping style.
That makes perfect sense because that would help me. Well, headshot only deathmatch, and then well, it was like mostly because I was playing on this one server. It was always pistol headshot only. It was like a multi CFG one, and
Yeah.
that like forced me to what's it called, to work on like my spam clicking and like just
Yeah.
like the just kill mentality, you know.
Mm.
Uh, and like yeah, I guess like what you're saying, the recoverability too, because it's not like an instant fight, you know, like
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. Uh,
Mm.
that okay, that's cool. I'm wondering here. Let me see. I'm trying to see if there's other
Wait, well,
questions. Oh yeah, do you have more to say?
no, I don't have more to say. I'm just gonna say that I think we didn't fully touch on aim styles, and I want to touch on that, but we'll do that in the future after the questions.
Okay, so yeah. Well, I don't know if I wanted to hear. That's what I was about to look through if there was more. So yeah, I have discussed difference between aim mechanics and aiming styles. That's one of the questions, which that's like kind of like what you wanted to go back into.
Mm.
Okay, we can do that. Here, let me do a quick review of all my questions real quick, and we'll see where we're
Yeah, take
taking
your
us.
time, man.
Okay, we talked about this. We
I
talked
can't believe
about
my brain just lagged like that.
well, yeah, yeah. When you like
I
repeated
just
yourself.
I just said the same thing 3 times, but in my defense, it's like 3 a.m.
No, you're
Okay.
good. You're good. Wait, where you at again? Was it
Sweden.
Sweden? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
What about
Okay.
your U.S. obviously, right?
Yeah, Chicago. Well, I
Okay,
was
awesome.
Chicago. I'm like an hour away now, but I still rep it. Okay, there's this
I
one
feel you.
I do want to talk about, but do you have any time constraints? Because it is pretty late for you.
Nah, it's fine. I'm in the moment now.
Okay. All right. So, all right, we did touch about this. All right, so there's two questions. I'm trying to think of. Okay, we'll just get into what you want to talk about. So, I mean, I want to talk about it too. I had a big paragraph written out. So, yeah, I had down discuss the difference between aim mechanics and aiming styles because, so like, like there's a mechanic of a punch, right? Like, let's say we go back to boxing, right? You
Mm.
throw, you got your jab cross, right? But then there's different styles and how they use the jab cross. So it's like you get like the Soviet style. They're really bouncy. They jab cross and then they're in, then they're out,
Yeah.
or you got like like the infighter style where they're throwing that jab in the cross, but they're planted. It's the same punch but a different style to it. Um, and there's several different ways, correct ways to throw a jab and a cross. As there's like maybe I don't know, is there several different ways to like flick or how does this
Mm.
translate to aiming? Or if you had somewhere else you want to take this, we can also go there as well.
Yeah. No. So a huge thing that I just sort of realized is that, let's say a coach watches you punch, he will tell you, hey, use your leg more, hey, use your shoulder more, or do this or do that. So boxing patterns are essentially taught. If you're born in Russia, you're more likely to have like a Soviet style. If you're
Yeah.
born in America, maybe you have another style, etc., etc. So it's taught. Whereas aim styles is a subconscious results of patterns that are already inside of you.
Mm.
Aim styles are not taught in the same way. They're just a result of you being, essentially.
Would you say
And
that? Oh, sorry to cut you off. Would you say that like some
no, go
people
ahead.
do end up getting taught aim styles, and maybe that's not a good thing? Because like you'll see
Uh,
those,
I
you'll see those CS videos just like how to be a speed aimer, and like
yeah,
maybe some people are trying to like. Would you say that's a bad thing then?
I would actually more lean on saying that yes, that's a bad thing, purely because we touched on this briefly. If you have really fast aim, or if you have a specific aim style, and then you're being pressured, or someone just peeking you, you're not sure where that person is, and it just appears in your face. Your reaction to new information will always be your old built-in aim style and less your subconsciously taught habits. It's sort of like the fight or flight mentality. You can have all the boxing lessons in the world, but if you face a bear, I mean, you're not gonna try to like Soviet style him or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going to be a very very different thing because you always fall back on your survival instincts. Like you might fucking bite the bear back or something. You would never do that in a boxing match, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're Mike Tyson, I guess.
Go for the ear.
You to go for there. So yeah, it's firstly I want to say this, that aim styles really don't matter if you just have bad aim. Like if you have bad aim, your question should not be about aim styles. Your
Yeah.
question should be about how do I get better aim. You know what I mean? That's why I said in the beginning, like skill is the number one thing you should always blame and look at, because I know most people are pure beginners. But essentially, what that is a subconscious patterns, subconscious combination of habitual patterns. So patterns that repeat themselves all the time. So like if you're over flicking all the time and clicking too fast, those are two patterns you can use to identify you have reflex style of aim, and this or that is what you should work on. And the question isn't really how do I get better? How do I change my aim style? How do I optimize this? The question is like, what mistakes am I creating and how do I fix them? It's a huge difference between like a person who just asks like, what's the optimal way, compared to a person that asks what's the optimal way for me. And people usually, we talked about this also, but they just want a quick solution and they don't really care about the work. And the person who looks for his own mistakes is the person who will grow the most here.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So it's like a lot of people should just be worrying about like just basic mechanics before you worry about styles.
100%.
That's like that. I mean, that's similar to boxing too. It's like, bro, if you don't know how to throw a jab, like, why the fuck are you trying to learn Soviet style? Like, you should be learning how to punch first. So then,
And
oh yeah, sorry, we're gonna say something.
sorry, that's where it goes back to my mentality. If you can't hit a static target, a large static target, and what's defined as large is larger than your in-game equivalent. So if you can't hit a target in Kovaaks that's larger than a CS2 head fast, then you should not be worried about anything else but that. Like if you're not able to even do the first step cleanly, you should not be worried about step number 10.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you said.
So then, where would you? So would you say aim? Developing your aim style is like that'd be close to like dead last, and maybe like learning when to incorporate different types of aim style, or would you say mastery of, I guess, multiple aim styles would be like dead last of like mastery of aim, but like uh, but would you say like perfecting one style is like pretty far towards the end as well?
I think like the thing with aim styles is that, well, the thing with aim training as a whole is that it's extremely new, and my thought process about aim styles is really that these are just words and rules to help you, to help guide you into, hey, I should work on I might be benefit to work on this, I may benefit to work on this, and there's nothing that says that if you have these two patterns, this is your only aim style. I believe that you can have a combination of many different aim styles and a combination of many different patterns that happen because you have a different gun, you're playing a different game, you know, you're moving faster, moving slower. So the question for us, and when I say us, I mean like people who like aim theorists and stuff like this, need to ask is, why does this solution work for this person and not another person? And aim styles are essentially meant to help answer that the best that you can, you know?
What are the most common aim styles? Like if you were to like put names to them, like what's out there?
So I'll touch on the CS ones because I'm sure that's the one your audiences are most interested in.
Yeah.
And number one, I want to talk about calm aim because I do believe it's the most overly talked about and the most overhyped, I guess you would say.
Mm.
So it's like not as effective as you would believe because it only works. It's very circumstantial. Calm aim only works if you have the time to execute it. But in-game requires so much speed that you frequently don't have the time to execute this calm aim style. And what calm aim style is to not do any drastic big movements. Usually you rely a lot on your movement to aim and stuff like this. And these people frequently have very stagnant aim results. Like calm aimers usually don't learn that much from Kovaaks
Mm.
because they're never going out of their comfort zone. They're often, as I mentioned, overly relying on movement to aim, overly relying on not doing too many drastic mouse movements, and just staying in like a controlled. It's sort of like if somebody's far away from you, you can take more time because you know that he probably won't hit you as quick as if he's right in your face. He'll probably instantly headshot you. So then you need to react to that as well. And calm aim only works when you have the time to do it.
Yeah, so with it, like a calm aimer, they would have to, because I always saw like calm aim is like, I always thought that shit was bullshit, man. Like every time I try to like, because it's like you only win if the other guy misses his first shot. That's how I felt. It's
Pretty
like
much.
if the guy, you might be more accurate, but let's say you're 90% accurate, and the other guy's like 50, like, but he's faster than you, then he's gonna
Mm.
win that 50% of the time, and you're only gonna
Yeah.
win when he misses because
Yeah.
you're missing the first shot. Like he's gonna beat you to it.
Exactly. So you're essentially you're allowing him the opportunity to land before you.
Yeah, but
Uh,
sorry to. I was gonna say. So then, if someone wanted to, let's say, let's say they wanted to master that, they would have to
mm,
make themselves. They would have to like learn good movement then maybe because that would like allow them to get more time to like they would have to like have really good movement. You know what I'm saying? Like then
yeah,
their
yeah.
next approach would be to
A,
like make yourself a hard target to hit so you can actually have that time to
a, a,
implement calm aim.
a, a person who masters, I think, calm aim is a person who masters another aim style, the aim style that's required if somebody is boom right in your face. If
Mm.
somebody's right in your face and you purely react to new information, reflexes, pressure, speed, and you can handle that well, then you can sort of switch between, oh, he's far away, I'm far away. Now I can sort of quote unquote use calm aim and it's sort of circumstantial rather than base every single gunfight on this is how I'm going to aim. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
calm aim is typical, like I'm going to aim exactly like this. And then, like Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right?
Yeah.
So it's only relevant if everything goes according to plan. And in game, very few things go according to plan because you can't control the environment.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Everyone's got their own aim style till they get peaked. I guess is like the CS version of that. Until they get
Yeah,
flashbanged.
exactly. Exactly.
So what?
And
Oh, sorry. Did you have more?
no, nothing about calm.
Okay.
But this, I can mention that this person would benefit highly from consciously pushing speed, hitting larger scenarios, maybe easier pressure, easier dynamic, anything that sort of pushes speed. But the main thing is that he himself must also push speed
Mm.
and get out of his comfort zone. That's the main thing for this person, the big hurdle.
Okay. So then, what would be the other aim styles that like is common within Counter Strike?
So calm aim, I actually sort of baited you a little bit. Calm aim is most common in Valorant, actually. And
Interesting. Why is that?
I asked a person, a very prominent Valorant player, why that is, because he was doing the exact same thing. And usually their mouse and keyboard aren't really correlated. So they're like move, stop, and then aim. But a CS person frequently uses them together. And I asked like why, because it's sort of like similar aim styles, right? CS and Valorant.
Yeah.
And he said that it's essentially a lot of Valorant YouTubers telling people just aim with your mouse movement or just aim with your keyboard instead of your mouse movement.
Hmm.
And I think that has done, I think that works if you have decent skill to recover for when that's not available. like we talked, like when you get peeked in your face and you need to rely purely back on your skill, can you handle that gunfight? If so, then it might be a cool thing to use circumstantially. But if you can't handle your raw reflexes when you need to, then calm aiming is essentially trying to mask skill, trying to mask your need for skill as much as possible.
Yeah. So then you say
Okay.
like the reason why there's so many calm aimers and or not or the like this the
Yeah.
mouse or arm where they stop and shoot is like that's like a culture
Yeah.
issue, not like like something different within between the games, like mechanics wise.
I I think so. I mean, you could talk about like Valorant being also a slower movement game.
Mm.
You could talk about like headshots being more relevant, being more necessary in Valorant. There's a lot of factors you could go into, but I'm sure as soon as I mentioned Valorant, your audience is out.
Yeah, everyone's closing the video right now.
Yeah. So we could talk about other things that are more relevant to CS2, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Is there more aim styles?
Oh
I think you're
yeah.
about to get into
Oh yeah.
one right there.
Yeah, yeah. So the most prominent two is lazy aim and reflex style of aim. And I'll start with lazy aim. Sorry, lazy aim is essentially in Kovaaks, not in game. In Kovaaks, you have a lack of visual confirmation. So this person often plays Kovacs and he overestimates aim and he clicks as a habit of ending his mouse movement rather than, being sure that now I'm on target. And most of these people often spam in dynamic, and that often causes the same pattern to be born in. Same pattern will then be born in game. So essentially, these people are frequently not looking at their crosshair, not looking at their target, but not looking anywhere, not focusing at anything. And they rely very heavily on their peripheral vision. And that allows them to flick into sort of a zone around the target and then sort of, boom, wake up, snap back, and focus on the target or the crosshair and do a little slow micro. So it's an overuse of peripheral vision.
Mm.
These people often have a pretty hard initial flick, and they would strongly benefit from working on under flicking rather than over flicking, decelerations, visual confirmations, and maybe even micro scenarios and easier tracking style of dynamic. And this style is essentially what you mentioned is not beneficial to you. And that's because I believe you're more of the reflex style.
Okay.
And the reflex guy is usually shoots because as a result of seeing the enemy. So their initial reaction is to click mouse 1 and shoot, rather than it's similar to the lazy aimer, except the reflex aimer frequently does no micros, and he's often quite stiff, while a lazy aimer often reacts, but he does so poorly and spams. Essentially a lack of skill, lack of speed.
So like
But
the
a reflex aimer,
Oh, sorry. Like the reflex aimers is just like the good version of the lazy aimer almost then.
pretty much. But the reflex aimer is essentially like, how do you, imagine if you got caught off guard, you're going to flick super fast to that person because you have less time than him and purely rely on your reaction. The reflex aimer does that in any situation.
Mm.
He gets caught off guard all the time, and that's why he doesn't get caught off guard literally, but theoretically,
Yeah.
he gets caught off guard all the time and purely relies on his reaction. So he may have 5 minutes to aim, but he's going to take a split second to do so.
Yeah.
That's essentially the whole thing. And the main thing is that a reflex aimer frequently has no microing whatsoever. He relies purely on initial flick. A lazy aimer may try to micro, but just does so pretty poorly or too slowly or stuff like that. They're sort of mixed together in a weird way. Like I mentioned, a lot of these things are early on. A lot of these things are combined. Take nothing as this is the only way. Take everything as I'm always trying to grow seeds in people's minds rather than give them the answer.
Mm.
That being said, a reflex aimer essentially, his pattern is having no pattern. He just does a super hard flick and clicks almost simultaneously. And the example I give is like, it's a really old example, but if you remember Hiko's door
Yeah,
shot
I was
on
about to.
Get Right,
Yeah,
yeah,
Dust too.
that's essentially that person does what Hiko did in every single gunfight. And he would therefore heavily benefit on pokeball, speed target switching, reflex, pressure, even extra small stuff that forces him to be accurate. While you, for example, you need something that forces you to go a little bit faster.
Yeah. Or would you say those are like the main ones that you see? Or is there any other?
Those those would be the main ones that I see for CS2. There's definitely other ones like the speed aimer. One, for example, is somewhat relevant, and it's also relevant to you. It's a person. It's essentially like very covering this very shortly. It's essentially a person who, similar to the reflex aimer, except how would I formulate this? The shortest way I can say it is if he boots up a large static scenario in Kovaaks and he just misses all the time, he's overly pushing speed and he needs to focus more on accuracy because speed is a natural pattern of his aim style. He naturally has speed, so he doesn't need to work on speed. He needs to work on the accuracy part. And he just doesn't have the skill to hit larger targets. He can move fast, but he can't remain accurate while moving fast.
I see. Yeah,
Were you thinking about another aim style, perhaps?
no, I was gonna say like I feel like like when I think about it, there really can't be that many because I feel like aiming is at some point uh pretty simple. Like there's not too
Yeah.
many ways you can vary it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the only main two I could see is like do you micro then click or click then micro? Like I feel like
Hmm.
that's like I mean it's like how much else variety can you get? I mean maybe like how you were saying though like the
Yeah.
calm aimer and stuff like that, but
I mean,
unless there is
essentially,
more, I don't know.
you're not wrong. You're not wrong, and this is a whole different topic. But this is why I dislike many, not many, like the, how would you say in English? The culture, the aim culture, because the aim culture is very against new things. The aim culture is so much, I taught this works for me, so that's the way to go. There's no room for discussing. Like, we're discussing, hey, is this really relevant? I have a theory about this. Is it even true? And you might say, yeah, this might be true, but maybe not this. And what do you think about this? So that's discussion, and that allows for growth. But aim culture is literally like, no, this is bad.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, and so many people, so many prominent members of like the aim theorists or popular aimers or popular YouTubers, or whatever, they're so closed in their way. And like if I go on a if I criticize your technique about something like an IGL method or whatever, I would go about it like, hey, he's doing this wrong. Maybe he shouldn't throw a flash here. This will result in this happening in game. This will result in this habit. And you would essentially give a reason. But most of the feedback that I get thrown back at me is like, he's just bad. He's just giving wrong information. And I can't really respect that from those people. And I've realized that those people are essentially like that fragger that we talked about that doesn't know why he's good. He just plays and he's good.
Yeah.
And as somebody who's very analytical, it's difficult for me to respect that. And part of me is very disappointed because I want that back and forth. I want someone to criticize my ideas. I want to reach the actual solution. And when I see people who just are incapable of admitting they're wrong because of egos, or incapable of even discussing or providing their own theories, you sort of I find it difficult to take those people as actual competition. Does
I
that make
see.
sense?
Yeah, no, yeah, it makes perfect sense. So then, so I have two questions. So then, oh, I just one of them slipped. So
Hmm.
these people. Oh, I had a good question. Hold on. Let me think of it.
Take your time. Take your time.
So then, all right. So I guess I can ask this one. The other one slipped from me though. So then, what are some? Oh no. Okay, that's what I was gonna say. So yeah. Like if someone's gonna tell you you're wrong, like you want a reason why you're wrong. You don't want to just be told you're wrong, and then like
Yeah.
insert ad hominem fallacy. You're just like, oh, because you're bad. Like that, because like that discussion is what promotes growth. Is like I mean, I'm
Yes.
personally like really into philosophy, and like that kind of like reminds
Mm.
me of philosophy. Where it's like there's these debates that have been going on for centuries, and like that's what gets us better philosophy is the disagreements where we see,
Mm.
like where like this guy's arguing for this thing, and this guy comes in and proves him wrong, because now he proved him wrong. It like showed us this other thing we just found. Like
Yeah.
that's just like it's really important to have disagreements in a field if you want to progress the field. And I was gonna say,
Yes.
with that in mind, what are some things that are, I guess, like controversial that you personally teach that other aim coaches or aim trainer mains would like disagree with? Like, what are some controversial things that you personally uh, promote yourself?
Firstly, honestly, like I've almost had 300 videos by now, almost.
Damn.
And I can very comfortably say that looking back on a lot of videos, hey, I don't agree with what I said 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And I think that's just a natural evolution of the game. And that's a natural
Yeah.
evolution of my character as well. Because you can't just hold on to the past. You can't just, I said this once, so it's true. The internet is specifically discredits mistakes or growth so harsh. Like if you said it once, it's permanent. That's it. That's your whole identity. But in reality, you say things that they allow for growth. You say things that they allow, like I talked earlier, uh, uh, a seed inside of your brain to grow, to think about this differently, to view it from another perspective, to say, I didn't think about this. Maybe it's not really true. Maybe it's like this, that. And then you come to your own conclusion. But I've then just spurred a seed in you, which also sounded sus as fuck, but you get what I'm saying. Instead of just giving you the answer, which is like, hey, just do tracking if you play Apex and give you a very basic response. But most people
Yeah.
want those basic responses.
Yeah.
That being said, to answer your question fully, I don't know because they never give me a reason.
Well, so like
I've
what?
never
Yeah.
heard, I've literally never heard somebody say, hey, he's bad because he says this is relevant to this. If I had that, I would love to have that because then I could feel like I could respect that person because, hey,
Yeah.
he has an ability to articulate what he believes. He sort of like maybe has an idea of it. He knows like even if he's wrong or I'm right, it doesn't even matter. It just matters that there's discussion and like you said, growth. But we just have, and a lot of it is because most people aim train are like 16, 18. So I'm pushing 29. I'm pushing 30. So,
Oh, really?
you know, yeah.
Dang, I thought you were like my age.
What's your age?
I'm 23.
Oh, okay. Well, damn. I'm sorry. Everyone calls me old. So,
Really? I feel like I thought
yeah.
I feel like you had a young voice. I'm not saying you're
Oh,
old. I'm not
really?
saying you're old, but I thought you were like younger than 29 for sure.
Oh,
Wait. Oh,
well, I did turn 13 days ago.
29.
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy. Wait, so then this kind of makes me want to add, has your aim been affected at all by age? Or no, like
Hey, listen, if I miss a shot, I'll definitely use that excuse.
it's just there for backup?
Um, exactly. I'll just be, hey, I'm pushing 30. You're 16. That's the reason. I think I'm heavily into optimization of things. And I'm heavily into like, hey, maybe you're lacking in vitamin D. You need to use that supplement. Maybe you're, stuff like that. I think that's a part of it. I think the idea of keeping your mind young is also very relevant, because if you believe that age is the reason you missed your shot, then that's true.
Mm,
And if you don't even consider that, then you only have your skill to rely on. And that's how I like to view on it. That being said, there are things like there are some people say, for example, if you're older, then it's better for you to use short, intense sessions rather than long ones. May be true. I have no idea. Could be very true.
mm,
Um, but I like to purely think, I like to do things by trial and error, because I feel like if you do things by trial and error, you get rid of all the bullshit and you just get to the bottom of what works and what doesn't.
yeah.
And that's how I based, and that's how I learned a lot of stuff, just trial and error. And unironically, at the beginning of my aim coaching journey, I mean, it's going to sound funny, but I would theorize and aim theorize with a lot of people. Hey, why didn't this work for you? Why is this working? And I would look through, oh shit, he has really fast aim, but I gave him an accuracy thing. Is that really what he needs? No, he might need speed. So I would give him a new playlist just for free and give him like, hey, this is the same shit, but it works on speed. Tell me if you feel better or worse. So I would sort of use them as test bunnies a little bit, but I mean they were getting free work. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's what's gotta be crazy because like I thought I was decently knowledgeable in aiming, uh, but you are that's what you do. Like you have clients, so you're constantly discussing aim, and you're constantly seeing
yeah,
what actually works. So
yeah,
that and also when I say I thought I was knowledgeable in aim, I mean most of what I know is just from like YouTubers like you and like other people like Maddie
mm,
OW. So it's like I'm literally
mhm.
getting like the scraps of what your brain has in there. You know, like there's gonna
Yeah,
be so much more to discuss, like the intricacies of aim that
yeah,
I don't know, it's just crazy. Like the levels to that stuff.
yeah. I mean, it's an infinite subject, and that's partly why it's fun, because no person is ever the same, but patterns can be found.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like I have to be the person you're talking about, because if I'm not, and my clients are dissatisfied, it's, they won't come back to me. It's as simple as that. But the fact that I have recurring clients is partly sort of clicked in my head a while back. Like, shit, I've had so many clients, and I mean, I don't want to brag or anything, but like they keep coming back to me, so I must be doing something right. I
Yeah,
use
yeah.
that as almost a little bit of proof. And it's funny because being a coach taught me more about life than I think anything could.
Wow.
And it's because you always have to battle with what you know versus what is true. You always have to be able to let go of things and grow on them. And you always have to work, and that means you're essentially it's the death of your comfortable self, the death of the guy who just lays in bed and scrolling TikTok, you know?
Yeah.
It's the death of that guy, and it's the rebirth of someone who always has to work, someone who has clients, who has responsibilities, who has new project, who has theories, who has, does this work for this person, not this person? What's the reason? And so on and so on. And that I realized this today, is that pressure. Conor McGregor said this once. He said, like, I want the pressure on my shoulders, because that's what makes me like throw out all the distractions, all the bullshit going on, and being able to focus and lock in on what I need to do.
Yeah.
So it's well, that's sort of a whole different thing I went into, but it's interesting.
No, it's definitely relevant though. It's definitely relevant. Yeah. I'd be curious. 'Cause I've never. I might have to hit you up for a coaching session or something because
Yeah,
I've
like,
my buddy he was like, yeah, dude, that shit helps like a lot. Like he was the one that was going to you for a bit. So
yeah, I looked back on it. He got 3 plans from me. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, really?
I'll double check. Yeah, 3 plans he got from me. I don't remember exactly which package he had, to be completely honest with you, but 3 package. He plays Apex, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see here he sent me some VODs.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, if you want to advertise, I was about to tell that to the chat and for like the people who are gonna watch this when I post on YouTube, what you offer because my friends swore by it. I'd be curious to try it myself. Like what you offer in terms of coaching, like you can,
Uh, I could send you a graph actually if you'd like.
sure, yeah, I
That
could
sort of
probably pull it
sort
up on
of
stream right now.
yeah. Wait, sorry.
Also, here, give me one sec. I'm supposed to go on a date after this. I got to text this girl. I'm gonna run late.
Oh
Give me
shit! Hey,
one
don't let
sec.
me hold you back,
No,
man.
no, no, bro.
What the hell are you doing?
No, this is pretty important right now.
Is she hot?
Yeah, she's decent. She's decent.
Oh shit! Hey, you got to keep me updated, man. Now I'm interested.
I will. I'm telling her right now. Interview going a little late. No,
But
it's
this is
cool.
good, Then you won't show her you're too interested. You're a busy man. You're doing
Yeah,
things.
I'm playing
You
it
know what I'm
cool.
saying?
Yeah, yeah. I'm too busy for. I'm
Yeah,
too busy for it. You know.
that's fucking
Oh, here's the
hilarious.
graph right here. You sent it. Okay. Let's see.
Yeah.
Here, I'll go to display. How do I?
And I'll tell you this, I have a huge, I want to say huge, but I have a big thing I've never seen before that's being worked on. It's just taking time because I have so much other stuff to do. And it's partly because my brain is constantly, I feel like I work 7 days a week, 24/7.
With this
And my brain is
coaching?
constantly, yeah, pretty
Holy
much, pretty
shit.
much. I mean, like I said, there's can be people in Singapore, so I have to wake up in the middle of the night. There's interviews like you. There's people throughout the day constantly messaging me, um, and I have to work on their plans. I have to update things. I have to VOD review. I have to work on new videos, and well, it's a lot. So, but I'm working on something affordable coaching, and it's gonna be a game changer, and I think it's gonna be really really cool. But
Okay.
this is what I
Yeah.
offer right now, and it's personalized coaching. And essentially, we take you through a couple questions that we learn about your aim, we learn about your needs, we see what suits you, what doesn't suit you. You send me a VOD of Kovaaks, a specific playlist. You send me some deathmatch gameplay, and I analyze that. I write an analysis based off, hey, you did this right, you did this wrong, this is good, this is bad, avoid this, work on this. And the goal for me is to give my client as much knowledge as possible to make him independent. That's my end goal, to make you independent
Mm.
and to get you to hitting the shots that you want to hit. And to not have to worry about aim. So you can be an IGL and you can frag, you know what I mean? And then I create analysis playlists. I send that over to you. You work on it. You give me feedback. Hey, this worked. This didn't. Hey, can you add more of this? Can you make it shorter? Hey, what do you think about this? Am I playing it right? And I just help you throughout the month, essentially.
Yeah, that's sick. So I pretty much got a personalized call right here, then, right?
Pretty
I
much. And it's more
scammed a
than
free personalized call. Shit. I just made $100.
God damn.
No, that's
That's girl math right there.
yeah. No, that's I definitely will probably hit you up and try one of these things out because I am curious. I mean, I've gotten
For
decently
sure. For sure.
far on my own with everything I've done so far with aiming has been like
Mm,
just like self-taught uh
yeah.
or like what I see from videos. My buddy's
Mm,
the one he went to you and he's like, yeah, no, it's worth it. So I'll probably
yeah.
end up hitting you up in the future. I will say, so let me see. So I just texted her. So we have more time. Unless
What'd she say? What'd she say?
she she hasn't responded, so we're chilling.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think I
Chill,
had
chill.
one more question that I was gonna ask. Fuck, there's the viewer questions too. Okay, could we speed run these? Like
Yeah. Hit him
Spark
up. Hit
Notes?
him up.
All right,
Oh,
so
are you live on Twitch or YouTube, or are you not live?
yeah, I'm live right now, but the main thing it's gonna pop off when I post it. That'll be better when I post it because I haven't gone live in I don't know how long, so I don't even think people are aware I stream still. Well, that I'm streaming right now because I don't have like a schedule or nothing, so I don't think there's really anyone
Oh,
watching
okay.
currently. But I'm recording the stream, so I'll be
Mm,
posting it and stuff.
awesome,
Um,
awesome.
what I was going to say, the viewer questions I got from like Twitter when I was posting about it or Discord. So let's see, we'll speed run these. Do
Yeah.
speed pads help tension management or sticking with a mud pad better? From Rayan.
If you essentially have a natural inclination to speed, then control pads may be more beneficial to you. Maybe. If you have a natural, if you're moving very slowly and you can't move fast, speed pads may be more beneficial. These are not set rules. In terms of tension management, to be honest, don't worry too much about it. Nobody's going to worry about tension here, release here, tension here, release here. It's way, way too circumstantial. It's purely for aim trainers. And even then, it's not really something I would say you subconsciously or consciously can keep up with.
Okay. I think that's kind of relevant to me because I used to play on the Glorious Ice, for a
Mm.
while, which is like supposed to be a pretty fast pad, and then I
Mm-hmm.
switched to the Artisan Raiden. I think it's the one that Matty OW uses. It's a little bit slower,
Okay.
and my aim was
Mm-hmm.
so much better. And I think
Mm.
I think I'm pretty fast usually.
Yeah.
I'm like, I
Well,
feel like I have this
like
weird thing where I'm fast, but I'm over analytical. So like I end up stunting my natural aim because
you're a
of
bit you're a bit scared of making mistakes, perhaps.
yeah. I think that's 100%
Yeah.
what it is. Uh,
Yeah. Like the one thing I just want to say finally on that question, everything is trial and error really about this question. Try a speed pad, how do you aim? Try a slow pad, how do you aim? And there you have the answer, rather than just saying, hey, rather than relying on me giving you the answer, find it out yourself, because that's the raw truth.
100%. 100%. He
A
also
hundred.
asked, is static clicking or linear clicking more important for tech FPS? I feel like you kind of answered that earlier, but I don't know if you want to touch on that again.
I would say static, because linear static is already isolating a skill, and linear is isolating a skill, and isolating a skill within an isolated skill.
Mm,
It could be something you could work on as an extra thing, but again, mouse control is your ability to handle any situation. So don't just work on linear tracking, because you might be hit with something unexpected and, well, die.
yeah. He also said, will evasive target switching help me to decrease my tension?
Mm, I would say smooth target switching, for example, regen would do it a little bit more if you struggle with flicking and tracking. Overall, most people who ask those sort of questions have horrible tracking to begin with, and that's probably what I would focus more on.
I see.
Getting the basics of smoothness down rather than looking to something very, very niche like evasive tracking.
Okay.
Evasive switching, sorry.
He also said, how do I know if I lack fundamentals versus needing to focus on my weaknesses?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. You lack fundamentals. If you're, that's a really good question. You lack fundamentals if you're incapable of mixing all styles together at the same level, and partly you could actually use, this is one way you can use score. If you are like under the 50th percentile, 60th, 70th, 80th, maybe even, most likely you lack fundamentals. But in the growth of fundamentals, your isolated skills will be more revealed. That's such an interesting question. I have to actually think about that one.
Mm. And you got him good, Ryan. Got him with a good
He got
question.
me good. He got me good. Brian, you have to coach me, man.
He also said a more personal one as well. I struggle with clean lines slash shakiness on smaller mice, but not on bigger ones in exchange for tracking and accuracy, or exchange for tracking accuracy. Is that worth trading out, or is that worth training out of, or should I just stick with what's comfortable?
So if you have an easier time learning tracking, you should make it your weakness. If you have an easier time learning static, you should make that your weakness, because if it's your weakness, you have an easier time to build up that skill. So you're making your weakness your strength, and your strength your weakness, essentially. And he asked something else. I just don't remember it. Can you repeat the question?
He said a more personal one.
There's something about a mouse.
Oh, he said, I struggle with clean line slash shakiness on smaller mice, but not on bigger ones, in exchange for tracking accuracy.
Okay, it could be that smaller mice are usually thinner, and when you're thinner and you have large hands, that can cause shaking. I've noticed. I'm not. This isn't like super anything like this happens 100% of the time, but that's just something I've noticed with personally and with some clients. If you struggle with cleaner lines, the raw solution is number one pokeball, and if you struggle with shaking in flicks, the raw solution is to move faster in target switching and ideally combine both of them. So you're working pokeball, the accuracy part, and you're working TS, the speed part, and you're working both sides instead of isolating both of them. But your shakiness in flicks comes from your discomfort in speed, essentially. It's sort of like going to the gym and you're slapping on really heavy weights and you're going to break your PR. You're going to shake light, right? Because you're out of your comfort zone. Same thing happening in Kovacs.
Interesting. So that's the end of the viewer questions. I think I had one more. I did have one more. Okay. You can speedrun this one as well. So I put discuss the differences of aim training within Kovacs and within CS and how to min max the benefits of either type of aim training. And this is what I personally thought. Feel free to disagree. I thought CS is more like application based because like if you're DMing, it's pretty hard to like work on your flicks. And then Kovacs
Yeah.
is like it's a lot easier to isolate certain
Yes.
aspects of your aim. But if you had more you want to touch on.
Very true. Very true. I did a video about it's called like in-game aim training or some shit like that. And in there I give you essentially an aimbots routine where you're doing like 100 burst kills, 100 sprays, 100 taps, blah blah blah. You're essentially working everything instead of just isolating, just tapping. Because if your natural aim style in CS is to spray and all you work on is how do I tap, those two won't really correlate. So you need to sort of work on everything there. That's the short answer. If you purely want to use CS as an aim trainer and nothing. That being said, what you said is very true. CS or in game, you use everything. You're tracking, you're flicking, whatever. And Kovacs is very, very isolated.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of like related it when I was like writing this out to kind of like someone who like do you know anything about like Wing Chun, like Kung Fu or no?
All I know is from Yip Man.
Okay, yeah. He's like the head of that shit. No, so
Yeah.
Wing Chun has like in the martial arts scene, it has like a really bad name because you'll see a lot of these like Wing Chun Kung Fu masters just get like demolished by amateur boxers. And I was kind of like
Yeah.
relating people who like overemphasize Kovacs is kind of like that Wing Chun master, where they're like they're so focused on like technique
Technique
that
or
they
whatever.
never pressure test themselves, and that like
Yeah.
there's actual like because I do Wing Chun personally, and the guy who teaches he also does boxing. He's the one that teaches me boxing and Wing Chun. And he's pressure tested. Like he knows how to fight. Like he's not just some like soy boy Wing Chun master. Like he knows how to fight, you know. And I was like I was gonna say like I feel like practicing in CS is like that's like pressure testing sparring. Like where you're sparring to like you know like at faster speeds. And people who like if
Yeah.
you end up only doing Kovacs aim training and you know you like grind out one wall five targets for like years. Like you're never really pressure tested and you're not really like working on your aim. It's like it's important to do both. In summary, that's like what I was like kind of like
100%.
writing out when I was thinking of that
Yeah.
question.
That's a really interesting like comparison. And I think it's actually super true and it's super relevant. And it's why a lot of people who have really good scores, like top scores, can't always perform in game.
Yeah. Did you have any clients like that personally? Like
Who perform
crazy scores, but like sucked in game.
I've had that, yeah. I've had a lot of people. Usually people who have good scores. Okay, I'll tell you about this one guy because it still blows my fucking mind. I gave this guy my aim trading playlist, right? And you could see when you're watching his VODs that it's his first time playing these playlists, these scenarios. And he was getting really high scores. Like we're talking 99,
Damn.
98%. Like he was getting really, and he was doing it cleanly too.
Yeah.
And one part of me was like, how the fuck is that? This guy should be coaching me, man. Like, what the fuck are you doing? It's his first time playing, and he's hitting these things like nothing. And it made me think to some people just naturally have that ability to learn things quicker and naturally have that adaptability better than others. To answer your question more specifically, usually that comes from what we discussed in the beginning, where he's breaking PRs, but he's also progressing. He's progressing his PRs, but he's also progressing his bad habits alongside that PR. And he might be changing his aim styles, his sense, his whatever, cheesing the scenario essentially just to get a high score. But in game, like we discussed, you would never change your sense mid fight, right? You won't tell the guy to
Yeah.
pause, change sense, and then go back to it.
Yeah. No, that
So
definitely clears up a lot.
so if you have skill, watch out for your patterns. That's like the easiest way to put that.
So then for someone who's like that, like really good aim trainer but not good in game, would you just say like just play more? Like in game type of thing? Like
Mm,
let loose type of like what would be the
you,
solution
you,
for someone like that?
the solution number one is to run a trial and error with him. Does this work? Does this not work? Do you need more? Do you need less? What has worked in the past? What do you feel like is holding you back? We watch his VODs. Maybe he feels like I'm moving really fast when in reality he's not moving fast at all.
Hmm.
Things like that. Is his patterns? Is he breaking every single pattern to get the kill? Is he creating bad patterns? Is he maybe like that one guy said, where maybe he's super good at clicking but super bad at smoothness? And precision tracking is relevant to CS, so it's reactive to some degree, movement tracking as well. So maybe he's not matching his movement together. And Kovaaks is such an isolated environment, and for you to not be able to hit, we talked about this briefly, an isolated skill poorly, you can't expect to combine them all
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. All right. I don't want to keep this girl waiting too long. I really appreciate this, dude. This was
Yeah.
so sick. Like actually, I'm about to apply like hell like all the shit we talked about. Like when I go back to aim
Yeah.
training. Well, not go back. I mean tomorrow. Like I still do it daily, but
Tomorrow.
yeah, like dude, a lot of stuff clicked during this conversation, and hopefully a lot of stuff like
Mm,
clicks with people who end up watching this. Like I feel like
yeah.
this is. Dude, I don't know. This is a good talk. Like I don't know. I'm like this is sick, bro. I really appreciate you coming on and talking with me and discussing, especially for
Awesome.
like the time it is for you right now. It's like fucking like what 2 now, 3 now,
Yeah, it's three something,
3
but
in the
hey, it's
morning.
completely. Yeah.
Holy shit, my bad, bro.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm used to it. Hey, like, this may be an indirect tip to you as well, but I strongly value helping people and giving information. And you also allow me to do that. So I'm very appreciative of you to do that. But
Oh,
I
hell
want to
yeah.
tell this to people: when you prioritize the right things, then you will also get the right things. And I don't want to get too political, but in the Bible, there's essentially a story of Saul, and Saul doesn't ask for wisdom. He doesn't ask for money. He doesn't ask for power. He doesn't ask for anything. He asks for wisdom to help his people. And once you start asking the right things, once you start asking God for the right things, and not making, for example, money your God or philosophy your God or this your God, you will have tremendous growth in your life.
Amen, bro. Oh yeah,
Amen.
you Orthodox, right?
Yes, sir. What about you?
Uh, I'm exploring. I'm exploring. Uh,
Ooh,
I
okay,
was raised
okay.
Protestant, but I'm
Mm,
I know I plan on visiting an Orthodox church soon. I've been going to mass recently, but I saw on your Twitter you had
okay.
the Orthodox cross, so I thought that's
Yeah,
pretty sick.
yeah. we're I don't want to keep you for too long. I'm sorry. I don't
No, you're
want to
good.
keep you. One thing I will say, just personally, is like for me, all of that doesn't matter as long as you believe in Jesus and as long as you prioritize Jesus. Everything will fall into place. That's my experience.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, I ended up dating this girl who was Orthodox. I
Mm.
dated her for a bit. She was like from Macedonia, so she was like really Orthodox.
Oh shit!
Yeah. I don't know. It's a interesting stuff. I'd be curious to talk to you about that off stream sometime
For
or
sure,
whenever you
for
have time.
sure.
I'm pretty interested in that stuff. But
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
is there anything else you want to plug before I head out? Like your channel, YouTube, or you already went over the coaching,
Um,
Twitter?
yeah, I mean, if you guys want to join my Discord, it's a really good place. Like, listen, my Discord is basically like anyone can say or do whatever they want. So we don't. If you have opposing views, non-opposing views, if you're an asshole, if you're not an asshole, you're all welcome. Like, I don't have very little rules. So some people like that, some people don't like that. That being said, it does have a lot of resources. We post challenges for you to beat frequently. We post aim quizzes for you to sort of get your brain going. I have a lot of free resources that you can access, like a 30-page free FAQ, a flow chart that can easily guide you through issues. I have, I think, over 300 playlists in my GitHub. Of course, you have my videos. And if you feel like, holy shit, that's so fucking overwhelming, I don't want to put that much time into it, sign up to my coaching and I will minimize that time for you greatly.
Hell yeah, yeah. Make sure you guys go do that. Send me all your links. I'm gonna try and find them after this, but if you can send me all your links that are
Yeah.
relevant and then your Discord, I will put that in the
I, th-
description for whoever's watching this.
I think I have a link tree I'll send to you right now, and it's
Perfect.
very easy to just access everything.
Perfect. All right, I will get that set up. Thank you again. Uh, and thanks for watching,
Likewise.
everyone who was watching this.